Well, it's very nice to see a lot of people at the board meeting today. It may not be something that we're looking forward to hearing, but hey, it's good to see you. All right,
You ready?
Cliff.
I move that the board enter into open session and affirm that the board met earlier today in executive session for the purpose of discussing and considering contracts and discussing matters involving violations of the declaration and regulations for which a member, his family members, tenants, guests, or other invitees are responsible.
Moved and seconded to enter into open session. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say no. Motion passes unanimously. Terry.
I confirm that a quorum is present and proper notice was sent to all members of record.
Pete.
I move the board approve the agenda.
Second?
Moved and seconded to approve the agenda. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say no. Motion passes unanimously. Terry.
I move the board approve the minutes of the May 19th, 2021 regular board meeting.
Second?
Moved and seconded to approve the minutes of the May 19, 2021 regular board meeting. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say no. Motion passes unanimously. All right, we are now at the portion of the meeting for member comments on unfinished and new business agenda items and member general comments. And for the benefit of those of you who are watching us on Zoom, today's board meeting is via Zoom, which allows members to participate virtually. Our meeting facilitator is taking everyone off of mute for the moment, so please say, "I want to speak," if you would like to be recognized. Members have 3 minutes to make their comments. Please begin with your name, section, and lot number. Disruptive comments, including criticism of a personal nature, are out of order. Okay, we're going to begin with our Zoom members, and then we'll come to you in the room, okay? All right. Taylor.
The first hand up that I saw was John Urechko.
All right. Can you please give us your name, section, and lot number?
Hi, thank you very much. John Urechko. I'm in 08046 on Itty Bitty Flat Run. And I wanted to briefly raise an issue concerning rules of etiquette in the fitness center. Some of you know that I'm a daily user of the fitness center, and I'm chair of the fitness committee as well as a member of the planning committee. My comments today just concern the need to post in the center one single consolidated list of etiquette rules for everyone using the center. I'd like to point out LOWA management has been very proactive in posting numerous smaller signs outlining rules for using the center's equipment. While those provide excellent guidelines, some are not ideally located, and in my opinion, the time has arrived to consolidate all of those into a single list and to incorporate some additional rules, all of which, as I said, need to be prominently displayed in one big list right by the counter as you enter the center. I've communicated with Tracy Hayes back and forth on this, and we both agree that the board should be informed and decide if the rules we submit for etiquette are, number one, appropriate, 2, legal, and 3, in the words of the fitness committee charter, quote, foster an environment where members can safely exercise, unquote. We've also discussed this issue in my fitness committee. Now, it may seem obvious that all members would understand proper gym etiquette and act accordingly. Unfortunately, this is not always the case. I've witnessed several curt, abrasive, and rude exchanges between members regarding the use of the center and its equipment, including patrons trying to reserve pieces of equipment, using cell phones while sitting on equipment, and refusing to allow others to use a machine while they themselves sit for long periods of time on that machine. Every gym I belong to has had problems like this and has posted a single set of consolidated rules on proper gym etiquette. In fact, you can find numerous examples of gym etiquette rules online. And you can even buy signs similar to the professional looking signs we have in our own center. Why do I raise this? Well, with the rapid growth of center memberships since the loosening of pandemic restrictions, I think it's an ideal time to address this so that both new incoming members as well as established members will have a clear statement of what LOWA considers to be proper gym etiquette. In my opinion, and frankly, in the opinion of many center users I've discussed this with, additional etiquette guidelines need to be added, and a larger, more visible sign is needed. Some members even confess that they had not even seen some of the smaller signs we have in the center. A large, consolidated, posted list of etiquette rules near the entrance will establish an official point of reference for adjudicating any disagreements over proper gym behavior. I recently circulated a draft of 10 very simple etiquette rules among current center users. They gave me some feedback. I edited those. The draft includes the center rules we already have posted, as well as some additional ones.
Hey, John,
Yeah.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but you're over 3 minutes. Can you please wrap it up?
I will wrap it up. So I think it's important for the board to address this. So I'm asking the board today to voice its approval for drafting a consolidated list of etiquette rules and instruct the fitness committee to work with management to prepare such rules. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Thank you very
Sorry
much.
for running over.
Thank you. Taylor?
Amador?
Yes.
Louis, state your
Yeah.
name, lot, and section.
Good afternoon. Name is Louis Amador, lot 478, section 1.
Thank you.
And I was there and present early because I thought the meeting included everybody at 1 o'clock, and that's why I saw most of you, but I
yeah.
left. My
Oh,
apologies
my-
for that. I would have loved to have been there in person. But anyways, I don't know if this is the right time for me to say this or this will come up later on, but I'm trying to support the Fairways committee that we're trying to, that actually Pamela Schwarber is trying to raise up. Is this the time that I talk or?
Oh, sure.
or-
You have 3 minutes. Go ahead.
Okay, I just want to say, I think it's a great opportunity that somebody stepped up to the plate to try to make this happen, and hopefully the board would go ahead and approve this. I think I spent a lot of time in Fairways for many reasons, and I think it's a great amenity that we have. Sometimes I feel that it's not being best used, and this is where the committee can provide some ideas because we're there, so we know what I believe we know what could make things better for us to generate money, generate people, more people coming in, and so forth. So I encourage the board to really give us an opportunity to make the Fairways a lot better and more accessible to different crowds and different opportunities to be had at that place. Thank you.
Thank you, Louis. Thanks so much. Taylor? All right, then we're going to move to the audience. Now, I have some cards up here. Are these the people who want to speak? I mean, like Ellen Regat? Oh, okay, let's hear from Jack, and then we'll come to the audience. Hi, Jack.
Hi. Thank you for the opportunity. Can you hear me?
Yes, please give us your name, lot, and section. Thank you, Jack.
Jack Simons, Section 13, Lot 85. I appreciate the opportunity to speak on behalf of Wood Center ad hoc issues and also the M&E issue on the schedule. In favor of the Fairways Charter Committee, I think this Fairways has turned into a significant revenue opportunity for Lake of the Woods, and a committee in support would be very helpful. With regard to the asphalt contract that you've got under consideration, understand the numbers are favorable. Would suggest that the construction market is turning very inflationary. So it might be a good time to get every bit of asphalt done that's possible. As a construction manager, we've seen smaller contracts such as the cooler freezer take a pretty big hit recently. Contractors are dealing with shortages of labor and materials and are pricing things dramatically wild. And so it would be in LOA's best interest, I believe, to capture the best price at most favorable timing to the contractor community, because our estimating people are suggesting worse prices are coming.
Thank you, Jack. Thank you so much. We appreciate you speaking up on these contracts.
Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else, Taylor?
Okay, I don't see any other hands now.
All righty. Now, I've got these cards up here. Who left the cards for me? You did, and you did, and you did. And I'm assuming that you're the ones that want to speak today, am I right? And you? Are you on here? Oh, yeah, okay. Well, okay, you have 3 minutes. Let's start with you, Nicole.
My name is Nicole Pappas. I live at, I was going to give my address, Section 3, Lot 130. Since our last meeting, I've had several communications via email with Mr. Rodenberg as well as his assistant Lori, and I thank them very much for the information that they've provided me. It's been very helpful. The last email I had from Mr. Rodenberg, he said that he's asked the staff to summarize in writing how we got to the point of having the porta potties at the beaches. I haven't seen that document yet, so I'm going to summarize the way I see it based on the documents that Mr. Rodenberg and Lori gave me. 3 years ago, in May of 2018, a memorandum was sent from the Maintenance and Ecology Committee to Mr. Rodenberg requesting porta-johns at the beaches, specifically 4 beaches: Cumberland, Cornwallis, Harpers Ferry, and Ramsey Beach. A week later, in May 2018, the Board of Directors approved porta-johns at the beaches from March 1st to October 31st. So March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, 8 months, at Cumberland, Cornwallis, Harpers Ferry, and Ramsey Beaches. And that was passed 4-1, with 1 board member voting nay. Nothing happens for 2 years. And then in November 2020, the Board of Directors meeting, during director comments, not on an agenda item, but during director comments, a motion is made and passed to provide financial support and to keep porta potties open at Ramsey, Cornwallis, Harpers Ferry, and Cumberland from December through March, effectively making them year-round beach or year-round porta potties at the beach on a non-agenda item. Then that was November. Now we fast forward to February of this year, when y'all approved the budget for 2021 and forward. And in a line item on the budget, and this is the piece of paper where that budget item is, this has to be somewhere around 5 or 6 point typeface. It adds to those 4 beaches, it adds 2 more beaches: Mount Pleasant and Pleasant Grove. I'm wondering if you all even knew that those beaches were added to the budget. I mean, it's like a teeny little line item in 303 Environmental Resources, account number 7510. You may not even have been aware that that happened. We became very much aware of it in May, when all of a sudden we have the structures and the porta potties showing up. So that's kind of how we got to where we are today. I wish that there were some people here talking for the porta potties, because that's the discussion we need to have, and we were never given that opportunity to have that discussion. A member told me that they knew the porta potties were going to be here 3 years ago. They knew that, but that's not the point. The point is, a budget item was approved for porta potties for 12 months of the year with no proof they're needed for 12 months. The point is, there is a very large plastic bucket of human excrement right next to people's houses. Not a flushable toilet, not a sink to properly wash hands.
Excuse
I
me,
open the
Nicole?
door, I'll be really quick.
Okay, good.
I open the door and I check every single day, and today it was pretty stinky. And there was paper on the floor. Where's the cleaning sign-off sheet I see in every public restroom I visit? And more important, the emptying sign-off sheet. How often is maintenance going to be done? Who's checking? I shouldn't have to be that person. We're asking to be part of the discussion, and unfortunately, we have to do that after the fact. So, by the way, just in closing, I'd like to know how many of you went home after the last meeting, stood under your kitchen window as I asked, walked 12 steps, turned around and looked at your kitchen window so that you would know how far away the porta potty is from my kitchen window. Did anybody do that?
Thank you, Nicole. We appreciate your comments, and what good
But I haven't had an
research.
answer.
We don't answer at this time?
Well, during comments, board directors are allowed to answer. Robert's
That's
Rules
right.
of Order allows that.
When we get to
So
reports
I'm
of
just-
president, at the end of our meeting, we can make a comment then. But right
I'm
now, we
only
just
asking for
listen.
raise of hands.
We're-
Okay,
Not
so
at
at the
this
end of the
time.
meeting during director comments, y'all let me know.
Madam President?
Thanks.
This person has no right to insist that we answer.
I know that.
At any time.
I know that.
They're out of order.
I know that.
I'm out of order, or,
You're,
no?
this is the time where you give your
Comment.
opinion.
Okay.
That's all you can
So,
do.
I'm sorry, did Mr. Clausen say I'm out of order?
Time's up.
Or, okay.
Shut off the mic.
I just didn't
Excuse me, you
understand.
are out of order. Sorry. Thank you. All right, let's hear from Ellen Ragat. I hope I pronounced your name properly.
Hi, I'm Ellen Regat, and I live in Section 14, Lot 188. And I guess my comment is, where's the accountability? As she said, we didn't know. This affects our property values, our safety, our sanitation, and it was not brought up to any of us. And, you know, people, those are small beaches. They are supposed to be for the residents and their guests, not the public. So that means you can run home if you need to go potty, you know? So we don't need those close to our homes. I'm sorry, it bothers me. And it bothers me that the cost of these, you know, would just showed up. This is the first time I've said anything in 8 years, and this is important to me. I mean, I've lived here for almost 8 years, and this is a very important thing. I'm a block and a half away, but I use that beach, and I'm sorry. I think we need accountability from the board on how they spend their money, a little closer watch on what's going on. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, ma'am. All right, how about Sean Betzing?
Ladies and gentlemen of the board, I would like to take a moment to thank you for your time and giving me your undivided attention to speak about a topic that has been weighing not only on my family and I, but also my neighbors. The topic I would like to discuss is the recently constructed porta-john on our local beach on Mount Pleasant Drive. To say that I am disappointed in the lack of consideration given to the residents in that area would be vast understatement. My family and I live directly across the street from the beach. After 22 years of constantly moving, courtesy of the U.S. Marine Corps, last summer we finally found our forever home where we would raise our kids and make our family memories. 307 Mount Pleasant Drive was perfect in every way. The view of the water from our porch was something we marveled at almost every night as we enjoyed how good it felt to finally be home and have a safe and quiet place to raise our family and enjoy our post-military lives. Fast forward 11 months. Our beautiful view has been replaced by a plastic holding tank for human excrement and a half-hearted attempt to hide it. Instead of seeing the sun shining off of the water from all the windows in the front of our home, we get to see a lopsided wooden box with a porta-john inside. We have the distinct privilege of seeing the inside that wooden box from the windows and upper balcony of our house. On the 26th of May, and again this morning, my children were enjoying their breakfast in our dining room with the windows open when the service truck pulled up to service the restroom. Putting the smell aside, if you haven't had the experience of watching a porta-john get cleaned while eating, I can assure you that it is less than appetizing. This is not what we paid for when we bought this house. While this may seem trivial to some, this has interrupted our daily lives to the point where learning to live with it is not an option. After 22 years of sacrificing, this is one sacrifice we are not willing to make. I am not an unreasonable person. I understand people need to use the restroom. Taking that into consideration, I went door to door to all of my neighbors who live in the Mount Pleasant Beach area to see if they were happy with this new addition and to ask if they were consulted prior to its construction. 98% of the people who I spoke with had an emphatic no answer to both of the questions. This point is further illustrated by this petition that I have to represent with nearly 40 signatures who not only oppose this public restroom, but who are also not contacted prior to its installation. Realizing that I am not only speaking for myself, but for my entire neighborhood, I stand before you today to ensure that you understand that we, the residents of Mount Pleasant Beach, are not happy. If the residents who live near the beach don't want this new addition, who then is this restroom serving? Assuming this idea was born out of a request from someone who lives in the Low community, the answer must be that this serves the interests of those residents who don't live in the vicinity of the Mount Pleasant Beach.
Ms. Yeldon?
I'm almost done.
Okay, good.
With that established, on what plane of thought does ignoring the voices of the local residents who use and view the beach daily to address the needs of a few people who have an occasional interaction with the beach make any sense? What makes these few people and their requests more important than the desires of the majority of the local community? If there's a legitimate answer to this, please feel free to enlighten me. Ignoring the will of the masses to service the wishes of a few is not how this process is supposed to work.
Thank you, Ms. Yeldon. Appreciate your time. I'm sorry? Oh, sorry. Anybody else? Go ahead. If you have a comment, go ahead. Yeah. No, you go ahead. Just give us your name, lot, and section.
Thank you for allowing me to speak. My name is Linda Yelton. I live in Section 14, Lot 161. I'm here to support the petition and the concern about the porta potties on the beach. We were, I'm not as, I didn't look at, I've never really looked at the budget, never really glanced at the budget. These porta potties were a surprise to me and my neighbors, and we feel that they were too big of an expenditure to be made without some level of member approval or board approval. But I see that there was some kind of a review done in the past. But we still believe that they are unnecessary. Any member or guest at Lake of the Woods is always within 3 miles of their home, and that's 7 minutes of drive time. If you are unable to hold it for 7 minutes, then you really need to be in a swim diaper. Moreover, at least our beach, Mount Pleasant Beach, is within 2 blocks of a fully plumbed restroom at Spotswood Mail Stop, so it is completely unnecessary to have this porta potty at our beach. Not only is it unsightly and smelly, but it's unsanitary. There is no way to adequately wash your hands after leaving it, and therefore it can spread feces-borne disease such as hepatitis A and E. coli into the beach and into these little kids here who are there. If someone, uses the porta potty and has these diseases, especially hepatitis, these kids will get it. And I mention that because, in particular, because these porta potties provide shelter and facility to people who may have nefarious motivation, such as drug dealers and pedophiles. And we know that there are some drug deals that take place at these beaches, and if you're not aware of it, I do suggest that you consult with security, because there are documented drug dealers that take place there, and these facilitate these drug dealers. They offer a hiding place and refuge for them, and they provide hiding places for pedophiles. There are 13 sex offenders in Lake of the Woods. At least 2 live within a few blocks of the Mount Pleasant Beach. And so I consider these porta potties to be a hazard, both a health hazard and a crime hazard. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else? Anyone else want to speak? You don't have to have the card. Of course. Put your name, lot, and section.
My name is Malia Dates. My my section 1, lot 275. And I come to this with a completely different perspective. While I empathize with the situation of uncleanliness and the view being deplorable, but my concern is security. I'm a survivor of assault myself, and so I meticulously route my runs. This particular restroom that they're speaking of, I run that route every single day. So I make sure that there are at the least amount of security issues possible. Now, this is just another thing I have to secure. I can't run this route anymore. It's incredibly terrifying to think that someone could pop out of this porta-john and attack me. You guys are having security issues all over the lake. And not to mention the drugs, the nefarious potential things that could be happening inside of these porta-johns. The budget, our budget, or our dues have been raised recently, and I'm assuming that it's because of the lumber that went into building these things in the middle of a lumber crisis. I feel incredibly compelled to say that this is a security problem, this is a cleanliness problem, and this is also a crime problem. I think that something needs to be done about this, and some accountability needs to be had in favor of removing these things or making these homeowners whole. I mean, I know that you all don't answer questions, but I hope that you think about what you guys are prepared to do to make Joe homeowner whole again. This is a concern on so many different levels.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Anybody else? All right. In that case, we will move on. Okay, Taylor, it's time for the Orange County Supervisor, Lee Frame. Is he on the line? Okay, then we will move on to report from Orange County Sheriff Mark Amos. Do you see anybody from the Sheriff's Office? All right. How about the report from LOWA Fire and Rescue? Do you see Dan Cianci on the line? All right. Then we are now at item 4.5, reports of President.
Chief.
Oh, I did skip Chief Walker. Chief, are you there?
Madam President, could we pick up the chief's report after?
Of course.
He plans to be here, and he wanted to talk to one of the issues that's been in the
Okay.
social media this week, and I wonder if you could just
Oh,
give
of
him a little
course.
time to come. He did
Of
plan to give a
course.
report.
And we'll wait for Lee Frame,
Thank
too, if he shows up.
Chief, are you?
Okay. Okay.
We're going to do it, your report out of order.
Okay, we are now at item 4.5, reports of president, vice president, treasurer, and secretary. Walt, do you have a report?
No, just that in a while, we'll be talking about the year-end financial
Right.
results.
Okay. Pete?
Thank you, Madam President. We just sent out a note to all of the committee chairs. As the pandemic is eased, this room, which has been used primarily for Zoom meetings, none of our committees have really been meeting at night. We are going to probably have some of them meeting at night once again. What we have in my memo, I said that staff will not be available for all night meetings, that maybe only as requested, special cases that where they might be needed to give a report or something. We're going to look into making Zoom still available for participation, but that would not be run by staff here. The chair of the committee or someone, a third account would have to be, and a separate account will be set up. We'll look into that. And also reminded them that if a member of the committee can't be present, even without Zoom, they can call in to use it. So we're looking at gearing back up to possibility of night meetings and how we're going to handle that. So.
Thank you, Pete. Appreciate it. Terry?
No, nothing.
Nothing? And I have nothing. All right. I should let everyone know that Director Heidi Brown is out today, so there's just the 6 directors instead of the 7. All right. Executive session actions. There's nothing that we need to talk about, is there?
So, we have to say what the
appeal.
decision was. I thought Pete was going to do that.
We're actually at executive session actions.
Yes,
Somebody
we had
has
an
a
appeal.
motion to accept or deny the
Oh,
lady's appeal.
right. A motion, okay, Pete?
I make a motion that we accept, that we deny the appeal.
No, we accept the appeal. We grant the appeal.
We grant the appeal, and the case number, caught me off guard. Summons number 07710.
Second.
Moved and seconded to grant the appeal of the summons. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed say no.
No?
Motion passes 5-1. All right. Committee liaison reports. Okay, the first one is for Legal and Compliance Committee charter change. The board will be considering this charter at a future meeting. Now we are at the Planning Committee charter change. Terry?
Hold on, let me just find my notes. Okay, found it. So the Planning Committee is recommending 2 small changes to their charter. The first is, in their charter, they have the responsibility for doing a long-term strategic outlook study. The current charter says that would be conducted every 5 years or earlier, but that's realistically not what happens. That's not what has happened in the past. So they suggest just changing the wording to at the request of the board. And the second is that they're recommending to add back their responsibility for conducting the LOWA land use study every 5 years. That is something that was in their charter, and the last time their charter was revised, it was accidentally taken out. So it's just putting it back in.
Thank you, Terry. Okay, we are now at the Lakes Committee charter, and their charter is pretty much the same as it was before. The only thing that I've made an alternative charter, and the reason for it is because M&E is supposed to be in charge of ecology, and for years, M&E hasn't been in charge of ecology. But the new chair, relatively new, Jack Simon, wants to have M&E in charge of ecology. So we'd like to take the ecology portion out of the responsibility of the Lakes Committee and make it like the lakes can advise the other committee, but they don't take charge of ecology. M&E takes charge of ecology. So I also made the same decision. A lot of times lakes is in charge of the safety on the lake instead of safety and security. So since M&E wants their ecology part back, I, just for consistency purposes, included safety of the lakes as part of safety and security. And then the Board of Examiners is in charge of the boat test and making sure that boaters are educated. And Lakes Committee tends to take charge of that. So I added in here that the same language for M&E and safety and security applies to the Board of Examiners. So instead of Lakes being the umbrella committee for 3 other committees, they are a committee that their main responsibility is activities on the lakes. And if they want to participate in the ecology part, then they can join the, send a liaison to M&E or send a note to Jack. The 2 chairs can work closely together. I see nothing wrong with that. So that is about the charter change. Then Lakes Committee also sent in a recommendation, a resolution actually. The Lakes Committee recommends that low-powered LED solar lights be installed on the buoys in open water at the mouths of large coves. The purpose of these installations is to help boaters recognize they are entering the no-wake zones during hours of darkness. So it sounds like such a good idea, and you want to vote for that because you want to have LED lights on the lakes, especially at the coves. But the main problem is duty of care. If one of those lights goes out and management doesn't pick up on it and something happens, then is LOWA responsible? And will the attorney's fees be charged, the member fees go for attorney fees? So that's our biggest concern with this particular resolution, is that do we really want to be responsible for duty of care, like if one of the lights goes out and somebody has an accident? And that's all I have. Are there any other committee liaison reports? You? No? Anybody else? Okay. Then let's move on to committee changes. Pete.
I would like to, I'd move to amend the list to add the name of John Undari for ECC committee. Let me find the list.
Okay, that's okay.
Cannot believe I've done this again.
I'll second the
Okay.
motion to amend it.
Okay.
4.5C. 4.5C.
5-3, thank you.
4 point. It's under 4.
Okay, I move that we accept the committee list as just amended.
Okay.
Second.
Okay,
What is the term? What is the term from
3
John
years.
Adari?
3 years.
3 years,
So he would expire on June 8th, 2024.
yes. And-
Okay. All right, first let's vote on the amendment.
Right.
Will he be voting or an alternate or what?
Is he a voting member? or
Voting
alternate?
member.
Voting member.
Yeah, they need a vote.
Okay, so all in favor of the amended motion?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, motion passes unanimously. All in favor of the original motion
As amended.
as amended?
Aye.
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 Motion passes unanimously. All right. Terry, excuse me. Terry, can you give us a referendum update, please?
As of the 8th of June, we have 2,268 ballots cast. And then that, and on a weighted basis, and somebody else is going to have to explain what that means, but it has to do with the fact that members own sometimes more than one lot or own 1.5 lots, things like that. So on a weighted basis, the ballots cast is 2,276.92. And we have a members' meeting on the 24th of June at 5 o'clock here at the community center to decide whether or not we want to continue this.
Right.
And-
Pardon me?
I'll let you comment.
Oh,
I have nothing else to say.
pardon?
That's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you.
Madam
Chief-
President, did you want to go through the interim vote count and let the membership know about it?
All right. Question 1, regarding establishing an ECC appeal. There are 1,837.92 yes votes. There are 292.58 yes votes needed for passage. Question 1 is passing by 81.2%. Question 2, regarding assessing charges for violations. 1,580.25 yes votes have been cast. 550.25 yes votes are still needed for passage. Question 2 is passing by 70%. Okay.
So Madam President, what we did here is the board got a chance to look at the interim vote. This is not the final vote. And you have a copy of it. So we plan to make this available to the membership, not only today at this meeting, but also on the LOWA website so members can see where we stand on the interim vote.
Thank you, Phil.
And you can see how far we need to go still, that each question must pass by 2,130.5 votes, yes votes. It's not just if it was a popularity contest, both would have passed, but it has to be a majority of the lot owners. And so that's why it has to be 2,130.5.
Okay, thank you. All right. Chief, you are here. We're ready for your report.
Good afternoon, Madam President, members of the board.
Good afternoon.
We did submit our statistical report and gate data information earlier. We've had a fairly busy month. We've been working with various maintenance departments and Mr. Rodenberg's office on massive camera improvements to the property. These locations were the back gate, the stables, the clubhouse beach project, and the clubhouse deck project. Camera systems were put online. Some of these were to take equipment that was no longer supported and we were having network type problems with and replace these with new equipment. And the clubhouse beach and clubhouse deck cameras are brand new installations for our property. Lakes Patrol has been extremely busy. They have revamped the current buoy system that we deploy for the artificial no-wake zone during your special events and concerts. That was supposed to be deployed for our first concert series event, but that, of course, was delayed by weather. The first deployment of this system will be this Saturday on the main lake for the adaptive water ski event for the Wounded Warrior project. So we'll have that out at 8:30 Saturday morning. It'll be for the first time. Very, very similar in design. It is longer to give us a little more of a protective no-wake area for the boats moored beyond that point. And that is my report.
Thank you, Chief. Does anybody have a question for the chief? Seeing none? Phil?
Well, I had asked the chief to respond to the issue of the kit foxes and give perspective since that's been in the social media.
Sure, sir. I'd be glad to speak on that. Very tragic event, devastating outcome, to say the least. This was a situation that probably and should have been avoided. If this is a situation that probably a rehabilitator should have been called in weeks earlier into this event, so these poor animals could be saved. Obviously, the mother had been killed or something happened to the mother, and these pups were on their own. Once a wildlife removal company was called in, and the wildlife removal company that was called in by a private lot owner. It was reported as a nuisance to that property owner. The contractor did review video the member provided. It did classify as a nuisance, so they did successfully trap the pups. The Virginia Wildlife Removal, who normally works here pretty much daily on property for squirrels, snakes, you name it, they go the extra mile to always use rehabilitators in our area to try to reintroduce wildlife back into wildlife after it's been cared for. This gentleman has taken raccoons from me, birds, falcons, everything. He did attempt to get these pups to a rehabilitator. Once they did so, they were refused to be intaked. The amount of mange, illness, malnutrition, and skin bleeding, they were not able to take the animals, and they recommended that the animals be put down. So, I mean, it was emotional to the community. Everyone, you know, we're Lake of the Woods. This is where, you know, we're on the edge of where the urban interface between the wildlife and our homes. But this is a situation where, you know, we should have looked at it and said, you know, to give these animals the best opportunity for life, action should have been taken weeks earlier to remove these pups and get them cared for, and so they could be later introduced back into the wild. So it's tragic. I understand. We all got caught up into the story. Mr. Rosenberg said we were all following the Fox story, and you know, I got caught up in that too. I should have made a better call 3 weeks ago. The first time I found out about it was when the communications department notified me that one of the pups had been run over on the street, and they were requesting cones to put on the roadway to attempt to slow traffic in the local area. So it's tragic.
Chief, thank you so much for explaining that the pups were in such bad shape, because I didn't realize it. I saw emails from the membership saying, you know, just so upset about the death of the foxes, but now I understand what happened, and thank you so much for explaining that. It is sad, because in Lake Currents, when we saw the fox and the pups, it was very exciting. But anyway, thank you for explaining.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Anything?
And one thing to remember, the trapper is licensed by the state wildlife department, and so we don't have wildlife experts on our staff. We would rely on either the state Department of Wildlife or a licensed trapper to handle these kinds of things. And so I got a chance to talk to him as well, and I believe that he did intend to take them to rehabilitation, but they weren't accepted because of their conditions.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
Ma'am, thank you, ma'am. Thanks, sir.
All right. Okay, Phil, it's time for the report of the general manager.
Thank you, Madam President, directors, and members. My report is in the packet, and I will summarize it. We always start with coronavirus and how it affects our amenities. And wow, the landscape is changing here. For example, we have members here back at the board meeting, which is terrific. And as we go, we will scoot more this way and have a more traditional setup. So when we come back to the June 30 meeting, it'll be a more traditional setup. So one thing I would tell you is we made some slight modifications to what you saw earlier, and I have a copy for you I can pass out. But we wanted to clarify that on the fitness center, we did begin today with the earlier times, and the attendant, though, will only be there from 3 to 9 p.m. So it's open from 5 to 11, beginning today, and the attendant will be only available from 3 to 9 Monday through Saturday. We're not budgeted for a Sunday coverage, but we are going to open every day now. So Sunday we won't have coverage. If there's an issue, back the way at the old days, you would call security, and security would notify maintenance, and maintenance would handle whatever the situation is. And we are going to allow guests again, and we're getting our minds around that. Okay, what does that look like? How do we handle that? And of course, we handle guests when there's an attendant on duty, or you can work with member services to check in a guest that way too. So once again, we don't have Sunday coverage for that kind of thing for guests. But we're trying to think of an innovative way to resolve that. For example, maybe perhaps using the Wood Center, the Golf Pro Shop as a way to check in and pay for a guest on a Sunday. So we're still working that. As was mentioned earlier by Pete, the committees are going back to their normal, mostly going back to their normal setups and places to meet, which means we'll be using the meeting rooms more. And this area, that Marion Pronk Hall, will go more toward other activities. So we imagine in the next few weeks we'll see more indoor sport use in here, as well as other types of meetings, bigger gatherings. Indoor sports are still requiring masks to a certain extent, and so I don't think we're ready to open wide on that sort of thing. And plus, it's the summer, and there's plenty of opportunities to do those sports outside. So glad to answer any questions about where we stand with coronavirus, but as I said, it seems like we're just coming right out of the restrictions. There are still some issues that we're working through. The staff still meets once a week to look through these issues. And I did want to give you one other stat, and that is vaccinated staff. At this point, we have 77 fully vaccinated, and that's 56% of our staff.
Anybody have questions about COVID for Phil? No? All right, let's go on to the Lakes Management Report.
All right, the Lakes Management Report essentially is, we're reporting about the crossover pipe replacement and Lakeview Parkway Ditch Reconstruction Project, and you can see that is in progress. We're waiting for that, the bids to come in on that project. So we should have that at a future meeting for you to award the contract and get those going, and they're much needed. The bids are due June 14, so I imagine we'll get this to you at your June 30 meeting.
Thank
To
you.
award the contract.
All right, and now we're
All
down
right.
to,
Next to April financials.
yes, please.
All right, just to be clear, the audit is ongoing. We have an independent audit taking place, and it's ongoing, and the audited financials will come to your July meeting, and that's where the auditor will stand here and go over those with you. Charlie Manival is here, and I'm going to ask if he would step up in case there's a question about where we stand. We're showing the April numbers at this meeting, and we appreciate it that you gave us a little more time. And when we get to April, there's always closeout issues. We want to make sure it's not like just a normal month. We want to make sure we get all the bills that have to be paid, and we get all the revenue we can count before we wrap up the books. And it's not really wrapped up until the auditor finishes its work. So this is what we call this is an unaudited version, if you will. This is what the staff's take on this is. So, but definitely some good news. If you look at the summary sheet that we provide for you, you can see that we had a positive variance of $469,411, which definitely beat the forecast of what we thought it would be. When you look down the list of departments, you can definitely see which ones were affected by COVID and which ones weren't. We had 9 departments that had a positive variance: administration, security, equestrian, environmental resources, community activities, golf operations, general maintenance, roads, and grounds. And when I look down that list, it's very nice to see equestrian and golf ops make it to the positive variance. They definitely benefited during COVID as more people came out to use those amenities. On the negative variance, you see communications, fitness, pools, clubhouse, and fairways. And we all know that our restaurants were mostly affected by this. And so as we look down the list, one item that caught my eye was roads. Roads ended up with $56,641 as a positive variance. And usually we want to try to spend and take care of all the maintenance items we absolutely can. And there is a $40,000 salaries and benefits positive variance. But if you'll recall, we had some COVID issues in that department, and we were actually reimbursed by the grant. And so some of those expenses are because the grant was paying for that. So, Charlie, would you like to say something about that?
Yeah, under one of the programs of the federal government, we obviously participate in the Paycheck Protection Program grant, but there's another one that basically the CARES Act, which reimbursed employers for various labor issues during the pandemic. Basically, you could get a tax credit back as part of as a way of getting reimbursed for the expenses that you would pay employees while they were either out on leave because of COVID or there were other issues. So we were also able to take advantage of that too, and the Roads Department was one of the departments that got the favorable variance for that. Yep.
All right, thanks, Charlie.
Yep.
And just claiming time back. So overall, when we look at April, we did very well in terms of collecting the lot assessment. We got up to the 98% mark, which means our delinquency was 2%. Industry average or industry sign of health would be 5%. So members, please know that your association is collecting most of what is due from the members. They are paying. We're working with them to pay their assessments, get on assessment plans. So a 2% delinquency is pretty normal for us. Sometimes we can get down to 1.7. So kudos to the department, mainly for following our process, going through notifications and letting members know this is about to happen, shutting off their barcodes and not giving them access to amenities when we've gone through a certain number of steps, and then turning them over to collections if it comes to that. But along the way, we always work with members, and we always want them to call us so that we can work out a plan, because nobody wants to see anything like that happen. When it comes to where we're going from here, we want to report the May numbers at your next meeting, just to kind of keep this separate. This is all about ending the year. This would normally be the meeting where we talk to you about the May numbers. We're going to do that at the second meeting, if that's okay with you. And so that's where we stand on the budget, and I can stop there before I go to my general comments. Is there any other comments about the budget at this point?
Anybody have questions for Phil or Charlie?
Yeah, sure. Charlie, just because it's going to be implicated some places, I think we need to clarify here. If you look at the consolidated balance sheet, which is the third page behind the cover for anybody who wants to look at it, we show the results on the new construction and renovation fees as being what's on the balance sheet of $447,328.
Correct. Yep.
Now, we had a conversation about this, that's as of April 30th, and we had $102,000 in change of NCNR money from the last fiscal year that was earmarked for this fiscal year.
That's correct.
And this $447,000 number doesn't take that into account because it didn't happen until May 1.
That's correct. Right.
And so just so people at home will understand, right, who are here will understand, that means that after you take into account the $102,000 we budgeted last year for this year, we have roughly $345,000 balance right now in the new construction and renovation fee account.
That's correct. And we'll have to bring that up per the policies. We'll bring that up for discussion at a future board meeting to discuss how best to handle that.
Right, but I just thought it was important that people know that that's not really what we have to work with. It's $102,000 less.
Oh, that's correct. That's absolutely correct.
$345,000 is what's really there as of May 1.
Right, because of the budget process,
Right,
we
'cause
earmarked
we had a
that.
snapshot as of April 30th.
That's correct.
So May 1, it was different.
That's correct.
Anything else, Walt?
Yeah, just a comment that, again, a year ago, if somebody had told us that we were going to be able to finish up like this, they would have wanted to smoke what you were smoking. But I think we made a conscious decision early on to not only try to get through the last fiscal year, but to set ourselves up to be successful this fiscal year, knowing that there still would be a residual negative impact of the entire pandemic. So this numbers we're getting here are not an accident. That was a sort of deliberate process to try to make sure we didn't run into trouble this fiscal year.
Correct. That's correct.
Thank you, Walt. Thank you, Walt.
And just to come back and one more thought about the new budget year. We're off to a good start. We're seeing good revenue come in at the clubhouse and at golf and at fairways. So we're really pleased to see that May is going well and that the members are using the amenities again. If you recall, what we said was, and when we did the budget back in the middle of COVID, is we were going to do a look back at the August timeframe to see how we did. And if we continue the way we're doing in May, it's not really going to be an issue. We're going to hit all our budget marks and go from there. Would you agree?
Yeah, at this point, May was, preliminary results from May were very positive for the amenities, absolutely.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Just some last minute comments. Oh,
Terry.
was there a budget question?
Terry?
No, I was just going to make one comment. Since I'm a daily user of the fitness center, if you look at the P&L income statement, even though the fitness center did have a negative variance, and a lot of the other units had favorable variances, if you look at the actual net income or loss, it is the only amenity that made money.
That's right. We budgeted to have the amenity throw some money down to drop some money to the bottom line, and we've counted on that for years, just like we've counted on the restaurant revenue, and it wasn't there this year because the members literally just couldn't get in there to use it. So we're hoping that the day has come and that will change. All right, last items. You have two items on your agenda that I cover here. The Wood Center walk-in cooler freezer, that's an action item on your agenda. Carl, we will have a drawing that we can put up. Hunter has worked with the staff. We'll be able to put a drawing up to show you the footprint of that building. Also, we've got the Lakeview Parkway resurfacing, and Carl, you'd asked that we show you where the paving is going to be that'll benefit the walking, and we also have a slide that we can do on that. That's what we were doing earlier in the meeting. We were running back and forth trying to get that ready because we'd like to see you act today rather than postpone that action.
Okay.
Couple other items. You can see where the buildings department has been working at painting handrails at the clubhouse, completing repairs and concrete steps, and at the clubhouse parking lot, and power washing the clubhouse pool area. They also power washed a lot of the other buildings. They've been at the Wood Center this week, doing a fantastic job getting that all cleaned up. There's a saying in the community association world that you always want to have a wet paint sign somewhere, and what that means is you're just always maintaining and keeping things going, and hats off to the buildings department for doing that. I do have an item on Pleasant Grove and Mount Pleasant beaches, the porta potty enclosures that was spoken of by the members earlier, and it's just reporting that they were installed and that they have wooden structures fitted around them. We do have plans to go on to screen them with plants on the street side, but we paused to see what the board would like to do with this item. We didn't want to spend any more money until we knew what you wanted to do. I did want to clarify that there are hand washing stations in each of those porta potties, and I double checked with maintenance, and they did confirm that. The last item is kind of an ironic one. The day that we had, on June 3rd, when we had the Lakes and Stormwater Management meeting, we had a big thunderstorm. So we actually had a member call in and say, well, I'm looking out in my yard and I see this happening, and I wanted to let you know about this drainage issue. So if you recall, we hired A. Morton Thomas out of Richmond to do our new lakes and stormwater management study plan. They're right in the middle of doing the study, and we had 40 participants at that meeting, and 20 gave information about their individual stormwater problems. And so AMT is building a map and looking at hot spots and trying to understand. They also have a map of all the street crossover culverts, et cetera. So just trying to get a better sense of what's going on there. And so we encourage members to participate and submit their comments and videos. And we have an email for you, stormwater@lowa.org. Stormwater@lowa.org is a place you can send your videos And that we'll have our engineers look at that and try to help. This is a big step toward helping resolve some of these drainage issues in the community. But also, let's not forget too that this study also looks at the lake health and looks at fisheries and aquatic vegetation, et cetera. So it's a pretty comprehensive report. You're going to see the final report in the November-December timeframe, but they're going to be working all this summer and into the early fall to get it done. So that's my report. Glad to answer any questions about my report.
Anybody have questions for Phil? Go ahead.
You mentioned something about the porta potties. They're going to put plants around them to try to screen the wood structure. Is that what I'm hearing?
Screen the wood structures, yes.
Is this going to satisfy the group of people that's here?
I doubt it. I mean, no offense, but I think they want it removed.
I'd hate to see us.
Screen would mean that on the street side, there would be, and Bobby, I don't know if you have more details at this point, that there would be something like vines or plantings that would help. So that was the plan, to put potted plants or climbing vines, et cetera, to help screen the look.
Thank you.
The look of it.
Thank you. Phil, can I ask you a favor? Can you touch base with Chief and find out how many crimes happen in porta potties?
Yes, I
Thank
have a
you.
note. I've already contacted him about that. That's, ma'am.
Well, we're talking about porta potties, so what I want to know is how many crimes happen in the porta potties. That's the issue, the porta potties, not the beaches.
I've already
porta
contacted
potties.
him about that. And
Okay.
So that's the end of, ma'am, that's the end of my.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry you're out of order, but we will be here at the end of the meeting, and you're welcome to say whatever you need to say, okay? All right. All right, we are now at item 4.7, committee reports. Tom.
Good afternoon, Madam President, directors, members.
Tom, it's hard to hear you. Make that microphone come up a little more. You're tall.
Okay. Good afternoon, Madam President, directors, members. I'm Tom Sheridan, chairman of the Ad Hoc Wood Center Complex Committee. This committee was formed by the board to develop a long-term master plan for the Wood Center Complex area and all the amenities within it. Today, Pam Schubert and I will explain why our committee believes that the Wood Center Fairways deserves its own standalone committee. I will provide some background. Pam will review the process we followed in developing the proposed committee charter that we are requesting that you approve. Up until 5 years ago, Fairways essentially operated the same as the old Pro Shop snack bar, which existed in the building before the Wood Center was built. They just transferred the operation over into a nicer facility. Seating was approximately the same, around 30 people. In early 2016, let me back up. If those people who are not familiar with that snack bar, members lined up to get served. They were served, they went back to their seats. It was more of a cafeteria type approach. In early 2016, 5 years ago, LOWA management renovated and expanded Fairways, added a full-service bar, changed the operation to table service, and revenue for the fiscal end of that year was $199,000. 3 years later, in 2019, revenue closed out at $452,000. The following year, even with the pandemic starting, and it effectively eliminated the last month and a half of the Fairways operation, revenue was still at $432,000. Fairways growth has been very fast, has more than doubled in 3 years. And it's still trending, and was still trending up when the pandemic hit. In 2019 at 452 and 2020 at 432, Fairway's revenue was greater than any other Lake of the Woods amenity, with the exception of the clubhouse. This past fiscal year, ending 2020, April 30th, 2021, due to the full impact of the pandemic, revenue dropped in all low amenities, including clubhouse, fairways, golf, fitness, etc. Fairways unaudited revenues are estimated to come in around $330,000. However, all of these amenities, with the exception of fairways, have their own standalone committee to assist management in recovering revenue lost due to the pandemic. Fairways is the only major revenue-generating operations center without a supporting member committee. Our ad hoc committee believes that Fairways can not only recover where they were in 2020 and 2019, but they will maintain the growth beyond that as they were trending when the pandemic hit. One of the reasons our committee believes Fairways can grow beyond 2019 levels. Taylor, could you put up the slide? Is their expanded customer base. While golfers have always been the primary customer, Jonas revenue reports in our member survey show that non-golfers are making a significant impact on revenues at Fairways. For example, in 2019, the last pre-pandemic year, 60% of Fairways revenue occurred before 1 o'clock in the afternoon. This is also the same time that the most golfers are on the golf course. So they're not in there buying food when they're on the golf course. So somebody else is. I believe our survey suggested it was the all-day breakfast, which has become very, very popular. Later afternoon sales have also jumped. The Commercial Golf League plays every Thursday night and gathers in Fairways after they play golf to have drinks, food, and discuss their rounds. A dart league started up, but was cut short by the pandemic. It is now restarted. Our creative members have established groups that initiated nightly gatherings for trivia, newlywed games, karaoke, live music, all popular events not done before the renovation. A Fairways committee would be on top of this and would help increase the sales opportunities and advise management. We also, with increasing sales events, committees are needed to assist management and member plans to coordinate Fairways hours and staffing. During Fairways' significant growth period, after the renovation, a Fairways committee would have been helpful in coordinating new events with management instead of the one-off requests. Going forward, a committee would be even more important as our creative members come up with new ideas for socialized gathering. Fairways has become a gathering point, a meeting point. It's not just a snack bar. The acquisition of the new cooler freezer will significantly increase food storage capacity, allowing for an expanded and more varied, healthy menu, which was the #1 request of the survey. What should be added? A committee could assist the Director of Food and Beverage, who also has responsibility for the clubhouse recovery. Fairways has become LOWA's second major dining facility and should have a dedicated committee. The committee, our ad hoc committee currently is looking at future capital projects. In addition to the freezer cooler, which we'll be discussing this afternoon, we have submitted in the upcoming 22-26 plan a proposed addition of a 70 by 16 exterior patio with tables, chairs, and umbrellas, very similar to what the clubhouse has. The clubhouse deck, the request would add a desirable outdoor dining areas for up to 32 additional members. By the 27-31 plan, we believe a kitchen expansion with added equipment is expected due to the increased sales demand we expect due to the healthy menu, expanded dining space, and more golf tournaments. Beyond 2031, we prepared a project on a cost-effective expansion of the interior Fairways dining space. And look out into the future beyond 10 or 15 years really is sort of a crapshoot. But it is a recognition that members consider Fairways a unique gathering and dining facility, and sales growth will continue into the future. The Fairways Committee would assist management in facilitating all of this sales growth. Now I'd like to introduce Pam Schubert, who will review the process we followed in developing this proposed committee charter that we are requesting you approve. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm a member of the Wood Center Ad Hoc Planning Committee, and Tom asked me to look into the feasibility of Fairways Committee, if we could find some interested members within the neighborhood who would be willing to jump in to help get it started. And when I was able to find, I think I found 7, 8, 9 people, all of whom are interested in starting this committee. We presented to our committee, and the decision was made to go ahead and create a draft charter, which we present to you today. Can we go back one slide? I have to tell you that the first step that Tom and I took was to meet with Ryan. That was March 1st. We wanted to make sure he was interested and willing to work with this. We know his workload has increased significantly this year with his additional responsibilities. And the first thing I said to both of them is Lake of the Woods has too many committees. That said, and I told him, I said, but in thinking about this one, I do see a value for Fairways to have its own committee. As Tom pointed out, it is a ever-growing revenue center within the lake, but it also draws in different people than the clubhouse, because my first thought was, why not put them together? I mean, they are both food and beverage. But a lot of the people who go to Fairways don't go to the clubhouse, be it price points, interest, formality. They like being able to go to a more Cheers type environment after golf, or some of these people are responsible for having created some of these wonderful evening entertainment. Trivia, the karaoke that we do occasionally. And all of these bring in more people, different people than are going to the clubhouse. So with that said, I said, okay, I'll take a stab at this. My logic in beginning the preparation was to go to the clubhouse charter and plagiarize it. We're going to start with our mission is the same mission as every committee in the lake, is to advise the board of directors, the general manager, and in this case, the director of food and beverage, with ideas for support and improving revenue, improving the facilities, and generating more support from the rest of the members of the community. The next slide, please, Amber. So fortunately, you guys have an actual copy of the draft charter in front of you, so you don't have to read these teeny-weeny words. But as I said, they're pretty much the same bullets as you will find in the clubhouse charter, which has already been approved and revised many times. The two items that we added in here specifically were, let me see here, well, the final item, item I, was one that we considered unique, again, where this particular committee will maintain communications with all the groups that have a vested interest in fairways, the men's golf, the women's golf, the industrial golf league, the karaoke group, the darts folks, and I'm happy to say several of the people who are intimately involved in these specific activities have expressed interest in joining the Fairways Committee, so we already have a great base of support. The other item on here, and I can't figure out which one of these letters it is.
C.
Oh, C, is about the review of the financial performance. And I know that that's also done with the liaison from the Finance Committee, would be going to the meeting, I'm sure, as well, and also being part of that financial review. But those are the two new items that are part of this proposed charter. Other than that, it's pretty much the same. Call it a boilerplate, but we tried to incorporate the items that we felt were unique to Fairways in the charter to keep it and help it grow as the amenity that it is becoming, and using the success that we've already found for it. So with that said, I hope you will consider our charter, and if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Do we have any questions? Cliff?
Hi, Pam, how you doing?
A little nervous, but okay.
No, don't be. I support the charter and can't wait to vote on it. I'm just curious about item I. How would you plan on communicating with these various groups?
Well, right now, I have reached out to them electronically with emails to let them know that we are considering and indeed proposing to you today about it. One of the gentlemen who was interested, Louis Amador, even took the time to come and speak to you today by Zoom. So I've reached out to them. Many of them will be joining the committee and then can therefore act as liaison back to these groups. And it's plausible, but not guaranteed, that there could be ongoing email communications as well with a little update to all these folks.
Okay, thank you.
Does anybody else have a question? Go ahead, Terry.
I do. Is Fairways overseen by any committee today?
My understanding is the one charter that mentions Fairways is the golf charter. And I believe they do a financial review and that Ryan attends their meetings to give them updates.
Okay. And then I guess the other question I have, which I know you've kind of addressed, but if we've got one manager of food and beverage at Lake of the Woods for both Clubhouse and for Fairways, why do you feel we need a separate committee for Fairways? Why couldn't we have one for those two food and beverage entities?
Well, you're right. I have in part addressed that issue, and I again think that it has a lot to do with the difference in the clientele and the appeal of the two different facilities. And to that end, Ryan also supported doing it because I think he had considered maybe trying to combine the two and doing some kind of, calling it a food and beverage committee. But he also seemed to think that the group that formed the Clubhouse Committee, while they may wish to be part of the Fairways Committee as well, are a little more focused on Clubhouse, and that people who are a little attend Fairways, use Fairways more, will be able to find additional ways to use that facility to generate revenue.
Thank you.
Carl?
At this time, if it is formed, have they got a liaison from the board?
We'll have to get one. Are you volunteering?
Well, I'm the liaison to the clubhouse committee, and I thought maybe because of Ryan's going to be involved in that too, I might join in.
Well, that'd be great. Okay, well, okay.
Just a couple of questions and observations. It looks like you modeled the charter after Clubhouse, as you said. And the one item that sort of jumped out at me was the annual inspection. I'm not sure the Clubhouse Committee does an annual inspection. Can you tell me what you had in mind when you want to inspect the Fairways kitchen?
To be honest, no. I
Kitchen
did
equipment,
just to
cleanliness.
see what is there to, you know.
Actually, the clubhouse charter does have that.
Yeah, it does.
We know. Maybe it should be taken out of both charters. That's my thought.
I mean, you got your reserve items, you know, the replacement of the stoves, et cetera. You got the replacement of, you know, we've been talking about the coolers and the freezers, right? So those things get replaced. So I wasn't sure if there was something in particular you were interested in. Another observation was, much like Terry's, that the golf committee is, in a sense, responsible for fairways right now because it's in the golf regulation. Golf regulation 9 has 2 paragraphs on Fairways Cafe, 2 paragraphs. And when you look at, you go back one regulation, you know, the clubhouse regulation is 5 pages. So I noticed that you are going to be, you are going to stay in contact with golf committee. But also, I would think we'd want to look at the rules and regulations. Not that I'm for more rules necessarily, but maybe we ought to come up with a set of food and beverage rules, although many of these are very specific to rooms in the clubhouse. It's just an observation that I've already asked Ryan to take on, is we need to redo the clubhouse regulations. They're over 10 years old. They haven't been comprehensively looked at in that amount of time, which tells me that they're sorely in need of update. And I guess the only other thing I would say is if Ryan is going to be the staff person, and he's the most logical one, I'd ask that it not be on a Monday, a Tuesday, or in the evening, so we can make sure that he doesn't completely wear out.
Okay, I have a comment. I agree that we have too many committees. So I talked to Tom about this, and he reminded me that the Ad hoc Wood Center Committee would be finishing up, and perhaps at that time we could consider having the Fairways Committee, or if the other ad hoc committee dissolves, because I don't think we should have another committee just yet. That's my thought, and that is just a comment.
May I respond?
Sure.
I'm not sure how long the Wood Center Ad Hoc Committee will be continuing, but I do feel that if we have the interest, that getting the Fairways Committee up and running now during golf season, when, you know, we have a lot more daily activity going on, it might be worth getting that started before the Ad Hoc Wood Center Committee finishes. But that's my personal preference. That is not necessarily the recommendation of the committee.
And we're not voting on it today, so I just wanted to just make a comment.
Okay, thank you.
Did anybody else? Were we done? Oh, Pete.
I think the committee makes sense because of the different nature of the 2 restaurants, and it is one of our main revenue generators, so therefore I think it deserves more attention. So I would be in favor of putting this in.
Thank you very much for your consideration.
Thank you, Pete. And thank you, Tom and Pam. All right. All right. We're moving on to item 6, unfinished business. At item 5.1, consideration of sending to the Rules Committee. Oh, wait. Pete, I'm taking your motion.
I move the board send to the Rules Committee and the LOWA attorney proposed amendments to Regulation 17, use of community center.
Second?
Moved and seconded to send to the Rules Committee and LOWA attorney proposed amendments to Regulation 17, use of community center. Is there any discussion?
Madam President?
Yes. Go ahead.
All right, thank you. So this is initiated by staff. We recognize that this regulation has not been reviewed for the last 10 years. In fact, it hasn't really been reviewed comprehensively, although you'll see little updates along the way since this building was built. And so the use has changed, the way we look at the building has changed. It's a lot busier than it used to be. Remember, we used to have a preschool here. We used to look at this building differently than we do now. And kudos to the community activity staff. They took a look at this and saw a lot of places we could streamline. And for example, right now there's a rule that says flowers and shrubbery around the grounds are not to be cut for personal use. That was something where back in the day there was a garden that people were cutting the flowers in, and we just don't have the same issue anymore. So is that a rule that we really still need? That's just one example. Here's another one where it talks about telephones will only be used for official LOWA business or in the event of illness or emergency. So we've all gone way beyond where this rule was at the time. Everyone has a phone. We do have a phone, and that's never been an issue here about how people use the phone. So we think we can shorten and tighten up this regulation. We've got use forms. I put the facility use request form into your packet. We also have a facility policy that dictates the prices. And so we've gone beyond where we were back then. So I would recommend that we send this to the LOWA attorney and to rules. And I know the rules committee believes that we need to tighten up our rules, and this is the way to do it. When you take a comprehensive look at one set of regulations, that's when you can look at everything together and try to get it down to the most important things. So would ask that you approve this and send this on. And this is, as I said, an initiative of the staff.
Thank you, Phil. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Directors, any questions? Walt?
Phil, I just want to direct your attention to the conduct section on page 2. It talks about marijuana smoking is also strictly prohibited. You know, I think we've been talking in the rest of our regulations about marijuana use.
I believe we made that parallel to the other statements that we have, but I'll make sure that we do.
Yeah, I think we use, you know, in the, some of the things I think we took about marijuana use.
Yeah, something tells me that it was the word smoking because that's what our attorney
Okay,
told us
if
we
you
could
could
regulate.
just check on that.
I will. But the idea there was it would parallel the work that we are already doing,
Right.
which is going to come to you at the June 30 meeting. So actually, by the time this makes it back to you, it'll already be finalized through that smoking, bigger smoking rule that affects all the different sections. But we'll
Okay.
take a look at it for sure.
Okay, any other directors have a question for Phil? Okay, then we're ready to vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed say no. The motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
All right, Walt?
Down here. I move the board send to the Rules Committee and the LOWA attorney proposed amendments to regulation Roman numeral 3, capital A 1, registered tenants regarding the tenant fee.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded to send to the Rules Committee and the LOWA attorney proposed amendments to Regulation 3A1, registered tenants regarding the tenant fee. Any discussion? All right.
Yes.
No, you go.
Oh, okay. Well, this is we're circling back on something we've discussed several times already. And I don't, you know, this is just the latest iteration of our effort to try to deal with the issue of what used to be exempt, or continues to be exempt groups, which are essentially blood relatives from the tenant fee. And the concern of our attorneys that it may not, you know, resonate very well with the way our covenants are written. And so to move to something that's more consistent with the way the restrictive covenants are written, it's being proposed to create a new category of people called authorized occupants. And those are people who are occupying a home where the member is not present, but who are not tenants. and therefore the tenant fee would not apply. And if we're going to create that, there obviously needs to be some regulations to define it, and also to parallel right now the registered tenant form for for authorized occupants, just to make everything work and be possible to administer it. I think because we've discussed this so thoroughly in prior meetings, I don't think it's necessary for me to give you the chapter and verse all over again.
Thank you.
If somebody wants it, I'll
No,
inflict it
thank
on you.
Any other discussion? Pete?
Yes, this exemption for family members to live in the home without imposing a second tenant fee on them has been around since 2015. It was done out of a sense of fairness. It was created, and the intent of it is still good. Keep in mind that this question came up not about the exemption for family members, but it came up as an aversion to tenant fees in general. And our tenant fees in general are done according to Virginia Property Owners Association Act. So that is what started this discussion and inadvertently triggered the need to withdraw the exemption for family members. So our attorneys said, you shouldn't give that because it's not in your governing documents. We know what governing documents issues are like trying to fix as we're in the middle of a referendum. So the intent of this exemption was one of fairness, and so I support sending this to the Rules Committee, trying to fix what inadvertently got messed up by someone being displeased with having to pay a tenant fee. Thank you.
Thank you, Pete. All right, let's take it to a vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion, I'm sorry, Phil, I'm sorry.
I just wanted to make sure everybody knew, for the members in the audience, they might recall that we've done this once before. We've sent this to the LOWA attorney and to the Rules Committee, and this is, in a sense, a do-over because of the new authorized occupant term. And remember, we asked our attorney to look at the term tenant in the state code, which he did, and he's basically said that you can go forward in this manner, and it would be a way to handle it. So on the finance stuff, we've begun to look at how we would administer this, but it's in a sense a do-over. That's why it seems very similar to what we did about 6 weeks ago.
Thank you, Phil. All right, let's go for the vote. All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Now we're at item 6, new business. Terry?
I move the board accept the slate of candidates for the 2021 Board of Directors election as follows. Walter E. Dirks. Did I say that right?
No,
I knew I wouldn't.
Dirks.
I haven't finished the motion. Dirks, thank you. Walter E. Dirks.
Now you know why my wife kept her maiden name.
Richard J. Rappaport, also known as Rick, and Clifton D. Wilkes.
Moved and seconded to accept the slate of candidates for the 2021 Board of Directors election. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say no. Motion passes unanimously. All right, we're at item 6.2, about non-member access and play at Lake of the Woods and use of Golf Now and EasyLink for golf course tee times. Phil?
Thank you, Madam President. Back when the referendum item on the golf, outside golf passed in 2016, it was decided that the board would review outside golf play every year to see if member guest play is being harmed in any way. Are we being too permissive when it comes to outside golf play? And this is the time of the year that we do that, when we look at it, because we need to know before Virginia VSGA, Virginia State Golf Association books come out, before we commit to Golf Now, before we do any of these big steps that we do. We want to know now if the board believes that we've gone too far. And I would submit to you that we have not, and that we're well within what the board had intended back in 2016, that we're inviting outside golfers to come in, have tee times, use the times of day that are not reserved for the members. For the most part, our members use the early parts of the weekdays from the time you can get the first tee time at around 7 to about 10:30. That's usually member play, and then as the day goes on, it's more open to outside play. So I've discussed this with the golf committee. They don't see an issue that we need to take steps back, but I know that you've heard from individual members that believe that there are some advantages that outsiders are getting over members, and so a lot of that centers around Golf Now, and something called Easy Links would be another step from Golf Now. So I asked Charlie to help me put together some information for you, and this is a discussion item only today, and I'd like to give you an overview of where I think we are as far as using Golf Now and Easy Links, which is a Golf Now product, and then ask you at your next meeting if you're willing to update the resolution that I show as a draft here in your packet, that essentially allows us to continue on with a lot of what we do for golf membership groups, sponsored groups and tournaments, reciprocal agreements with other golf clubs, and then Section 4 is the key one, non-member individual golfers. To see if you have any concerns as fiduciaries for our association, as the ones that are supposed to look at this from a governing documents point of view. Is there a problem? So what is Golf Now? It's a platform that is recognized in the golf community as a way for golfers and golf courses to connect better. They offer tee time services, and they also help promote our course. And right now, the arrangement we have with Golf Now is we don't pay them any money, we give them tee times. And you can see in my memo here, the one from Charlie and me, that we trade them 2 tee times a day during the week, Monday through Friday, where we give them the 11 a.m. and 10 p.m. And let's see, I want to make sure I'm reading in the right spot, Charlie. Is this our current arrangement at the bottom of page 1? Sorry about that. Well, essentially, we give them 2 tee times during, I can summarize this. We give them 2 tee times during the weekday, and for that, they promote us. And for that, they sell those, and they have them as the deal of the day, and they make the money off of those 2 tee times. Well, the 3rd tee time and any of those after that go to Lake of the Woods. And I think that's where you've seen some members concerned that they see that the deals of the day are better than the member rates. But I would submit to you that a LOWA member could go get that deal of the day too if they're savvy and they know where to look on Golf Now. But we'll talk to you a little bit about the new arrangement. We don't want them to discount it more than 15%.
Right, that's correct.
And so we want to put a floor on that. Hey, deal of the day can't be less than 15%. And again, the other ones that they would sell would be at the rack rate. So, for example, if it's $45 during the week, it's got to be $45. If it's $50 on the weekend, it's got to be $50. So I think when I've looked at this, and Charlie would agree, that we are just not using Golf Now the way we should be. We're using our pro shop staff to take calls for outside play, and that's probably not the most efficient use of their time. We think that if we went through and stopped using Jonas module for this and started using Golf Now, that our pro shop staff could be more oriented to checking in guests and dealing with the people right in front of them, as opposed to handling the phone call and then also checking in somebody and going back and forth. So now the golf committee has looked at this. When Mike Harvey was here as our golf pro, they went to him and had a conversation and said, what can we do to help you be better? And Mike didn't like our arrangement. It was set up where you had to go to 2 different screens to make a transaction. He was right. There were a couple of steps you had to go through to get a transaction done. And so they looked at a product called Easy Links, and it's a GolfNow product that is essentially a very golf-friendly module for tee times and checking people in. It can also do a lot of other things, such as send out notifications to golfers. And it's sort of we use Clubhouse Online for our LOWA items. It's sort of Clubhouse Online for golfers, if you will. It's very much oriented around the golfing community. And so so the golf committee would like us to go ahead and sign a contract with GolfNow for Easy Links. And if we do that, then GolfNow would want to trade the 2 tee times per day, but also they want one on Saturday and Sunday as well at 11:14. So we'd have to give them some weekend tee times as well. But if you can see by the report, and I'd like to call on Charlie at this time, they've generated a lot of interest in our course, and we think that's only going to grow. And they offer an ability for us to email thousands of people to tell them about our deals, as opposed to whatever we could do ourselves. So in a sense, if we don't use GolfNow, then we have to do it ourselves. We have to do our own homegrown approach to this. We have to put together all the different things that we do here into a golf package. We have to use Jonas for tee times. We have to use Clubhouse Online to send out emails. And it's not as efficient and as tight and golf-oriented as what they can do for us. So that's why the golf committee is so on board with this. And I just checked with them at the last meeting. Yes, we still think Easy Links is great. Charlie, do you want to say anything more about the marketing potential?
Sure. Madam President, members of the board, and members of the community. Yeah, we've spent time looking at this as well with the golf committee. And GolfNow is definitely the premier platform for golfers. I'm not a golfer, so I knew nothing about this. But having said that, it's amazing how many people use it. I mean, 3.5 million users around the world, and they're hooked into 9,000 different golf courses. And they can book reservations for you anytime, anywhere. And they also have a huge marketing potential to that 3.5 million user base. Down in, I think, Richmond alone, I think there are over 500,000 potential golfers down in the Southern Virginia area. You can do marketing campaigns, email marketing campaigns. You can also generate your own type of coupon marketing campaign, and they can reach out to all these golfers and get it posted on their website. The goal with the Easy Links system, which is different than what we have now, currently we just have a link on to the GolfNow website, which wasn't there just a couple months ago, but it is there now. And by going there, anybody, non-members can go to our website if they want to make a tee time. Then they click on the link to the GolfNow website, and they can make a reservation through there, and they can book a reservation at our golf course. But what we're potentially looking to do is take their Easy Links platform and integrate it with Jonas directly. So we would remove that tee time booking system from, it's still there, but we would put that on the side that Jonas offers, and we'd use this as our primary booking mechanism. So all golfers would be directed to the Easy Links site, and members and non-members. And based on your login credentials, your rates would appear based on, are you a member, are you not a member? And it would be automatic. On the back end, we then have a lot more control over rate management internally, and that's where I think we've been falling down. We haven't been taking advantage of that at all. No one's been managing that on the GolfNow side, so where we could be looking at days of the week where we're not as, the play is lower or something, and we want to do our own discounting and do whatever we want to do, we can do that on the back end and promote our golf course independently of what GolfNow does to help drive more business to us. We can't currently do that right now within Jonas. It's pretty static what we can do there. So this gives us an opportunity on the back end to take advantage of that too, in addition to leveraging what GolfNow can do, offer us. And they do offer programs, and they actually help guide you through that. They have our sales rep and his team will help set that up for us and get things going. And it's not an immediate thing. We don't flip a switch for this particular thing. It's going to take a month and a half or so to get it totally integrated and get things working, but there's no cost to that, no direct cost for that. As Phil pointed out, there's just, we would give up future tee times what are listed in here, basically. And while there is a cost for that, so to speak, it's kind of an indirect cost because we wouldn't get the revenue from those tee times necessarily. I guess you have to look at it is, would you get those revenues anyway? Because if people don't know about the course or they're not accessing the course, you may get people to fill those slots, but they would just be pulling them in from different time slots during the day that they would have otherwise booked reservations for. So it's really not a real hard cost to us, and there's no check we have to write. This is just, and we can manage all the stats on it. It has a wonderful back-end reporting system. We can figure out what happened for the month as far as not only the weather and how many people have booked, but it also has rating systems, tells you how your course is rated, tells you how many people played, how many people liked your course, how many clicks moved into the actual golf bookings. It's pretty good booking engine and reporting system. So with the right day-to-day management and keeping on top of it, well, even what little we've done, we've already seen in May, we've already seen a dramatic increase from Golf Now just because we made some simple changes. And again, I think that was because for the last 2 years, we really haven't focused on using it as a tool. It's kind of been a nice tool. We put it in place, but it's been put up on the shelf, and it's just kind of been left to run. And without that daily focus and management, it hasn't really been leveraged to even half of what it can do for us. So I think it's a great marketing tool. Yeah.
I have a question,
Sure.
Charlie.
Mhm.
So who would be in charge of Golf Now? Would it be your department?
No, we would support it, and we definitely, since it's what I consider a business system, we definitely want to stay on top of it and keep an eye on it. The Golf Pro and his team would be responsible for that. Right now, I'm Colin, what's Colin's last name? Ruggles? Ruggles, yes. He's been trained on it initially. He's starting to get into it and starting to learn how to use the back-end system, and we are bringing him up to speed, and he's catching on very quickly. And then myself and Barbara Riley from my staff are looking at it from a different perspective, from a financial perspective, and we're starting to look into the data, but we're not the ones who are going to run it.
And I have one more question. The people who are used to using the old system, how are you going to inform them so that they use the new system?
Good question. We definitely have a communication blast to all the golf members, and actually to the whole community. But again, there'll be only one button on the website. If you want to make a reservation, you just click that button.
You're just going to change
And
that
go to
button
our
to
website.
Golf
It's
Now.
gonna go
Okay.
Yeah, you go to lowa.org website and go from there.
Yeah.
And go right from there, or you can go through Golf Now too, if you know how to do
Two
that.
different ways.
Okay.
So it's
All right,
it's nice.
I get
It's
it.
got a nice app, and it's really well done. So.
Does anybody else have a question? Terry?
Yeah. So, like you, Charlie, I don't golf.
Yeah, okay.
So my question may be dumb, and it may be an obvious answer, but so we trade them 2 times a day for 7 days a week. And those, when Golf Now sells those are at a discounted price?
They sell them for their own profit, so they
For their,
decide what.
okay, so that
decide what
whatever
the
price
is
they're
gonna
selling
be.
it, that's their profit.
But they can't go below 15% of our rack
Okay.
rate, right?
And then any other time that a non-member uses
Or
Golf Now to come here, they're going to pay the same price as a member?
They're going to pay the rack rate for non-members.
Okay.
And
So
you've got
they'll-
members' rates and non-members' rates. and-
Yeah, I'm just trying to make sure
Yeah.
I understand, since as you said, Phil, we know that there are some members who think that non-members get advantages over members on playing golf, and since I don't play golf, I don't really understand what those people think.
Yeah, the way it works is after the initial deal of the day is done, and by the way, I misspoke, it will never go below 85% of our value. So there's a discount would only be 15%. But the way it would work is once they sold their rate, their slots, then the next booking person would make a reservation on Golf Now, and they would pay a $2.50 charge to Golf Now for that right to make that reservation, and then they would come in and check in at our location. And right now, they pay at the counter I believe if we go to Easy Links, they'll be able to actually pay right there online, and they'll be transferring us some money as well. So we'll get the revenue stream either right there online, or it'll come through when they come into the gate to check in.
And just to follow up on Terry's comments, for example, and I'm looking at our fee schedule. The member rate for 18 holes is $40, and the non-member rate is $45. So there's a price difference to advantage members in this respect. And so also, members would still be able to make tee times at the counter.
Yes.
And so they could still walk in the pro shop and make tee times there, but they just also have a better platform to make it on. And it looks a lot more user-friendly to me than the Jonas one did.
Thank you. Pete?
Yes, thank you, Madam President. Charlie, in the memo here, I understand a couple of things. First of all, the tee times we are trading for are pretty much unused tee times, unused inventory. So that the 11:14 and 12:10 a day, those are virtually unused in the heat of the day, et cetera. But it says here that, so we trade those tee times, they keep that revenue, correct? They keep the revenue from those?
Right, for
Yes.
that.
And
yeah,
then it
for
says
40.
they also get a 5% commission on all rounds booked using the Golf Now platform that are outside of those tee times. Would that include our members, et cetera? Anybody who uses the Golf Now to book their tee times, they get 5%?
It's definitely for guests. I'm not
Yeah,
100% sure about the members.
We need
That's
to
a good
follow up
question.
on that. I saw it as only outside players.
Yeah, I want to make sure. because
And that's that $250 I told you about. That's the
$2.50.
reservation
Fee, okay.
Yeah.
So would our members be subject to that $2.50
Right.
fee?
I just don't know. I'll have to
Okay.
double check on that.
That was a question. And I'm glad that you're limited the discount so that does not become an issue, as Phil pointed out. Okay. And this is, by the way, this is a wider reach. Our Jonas system is people that live here and have used it, but we can extend our net, cast the net a little wider. with
Oh,
this.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Get more business.
Just thinking about Richmond having 500,000 golfers, that's pretty good. That's a
And-
lot of marketing.
We would still have VSGA, we would still, allow that booking that way as well. So there'd still be some elements that we retain.
Okay. All right. Anybody else? Oh, Walt?
Yes, this is more of a general question. I know this spring, there were times when members could not get tee times here. And, people were playing at Meadows because they couldn't get a tee time here. Now, I'm wondering how much of that was due to the fact that we spread out tee times more because of the pandemic. Now, since things have begun to go back to normal, are we still having that problem? Because I know it happened to me twice in the spring, and I heard from other people who had similar experiences where it was literally impossible to get a tee time here. And I'm wondering whether we're still getting feedback like that.
I haven't heard that. I'll check that with the pro shop to see what's the root of that, if we are seeing that.
Because I know that, a couple months ago, it was an issue, and, trust me, I heard about it from several people.
But I know who.
My ears are still ringing.
All right.
Well, so what we'd like to do, in case you had any other questions, is put this on your June 30 meeting to, Golf Now wants us to agree to this and go forward, but I want to make sure that you have something formal in front of you, and we'll definitely get the answers to these questions and nail down any loose ends for you on that. I did want to mention that we are close to getting a golf pro hired, and we've already, with the two finalists that we have, we've gone over Golf Now, gone over Easy Links, and tried to make sure they understand they would be coming in, and this would be the system we'd be using.
Thank you, Phil. And thank you, Charlie.
Okay.
Let's move on to item 6.3. Walt?
Okay, I move the board adopt resolution 2021-12, an administrative resolution approving a primary banking relationship with CIT Bank.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve a primary banking relationship with CIT Bank. Well, do you want to lead the discussion?
Sure. My own personal journey, and this began 2 years ago, and we were at a community association meeting in Richmond. And they had the usual thing where they have vendors. And one of the vendors there was a bank that was actively recruiting associations as clients, customers. And they had their own department and their own group specifically dealing with the issues and the problems and the benefits for associations. And so, that led to some conversations internally. And then when Charlie came, additional conversations. And Charlie, in his typical fashion, grabbed a hold of the issue and began to move it forward. And that has led to the current proposal. And I think I'll turn it over to him to go into the details. But the important thing to remember here is the people across the street at our current bank, at the local level, are doing a fabulous job.
That's right.
The problem is that the services you need from a bank go beyond the helpful staff at your local branch. And I think that and some cost issues are what caused us to make the recommendation we have. So I'll let Charlie take it the rest of the way.
Charlie?
Okay. All right, thank you. Thank you, Walt. So as Walt pointed out, the topic here is we want to discuss potentially moving from Atlantic Union Bank to CIT Bank. And that's primarily in an effort to reduce costs, improve the customer service, and also improve our overall investment opportunities along with mitigating risk. So we are asking that you approve the Administrative Resolution 2021-12. I've been here just 2 years, and while there's been lots of things, a lot of fires and things to work on over the last couple of years, the banking relationship is not one we've really focused on. It's been going along, and they've been a great bank. They do banking relations with us and handle our daily transactions very well. The folks across the street have been wonderful. They're very responsible and helping us out with everything that we have to deal with. However, over the time, the bank itself is not oriented toward community associations. Their higher level support and response times are pretty slow, and their investment rates and costs are. Investment rates are a little bit lower, and their monthly administrative costs are higher. Typically, what banks have done in the past is for things called account analysis fees, is that they'll take care of your banking operations, and they'll offset your banking operation costs with investment returns from the funds you keep in their bank. However, interest rates have been so low for the last year and a half, 2 years, that our fees are actually increasing, and we're actually having to directly pay them. And it's gotten up to, as I point out in here, it's about $5,500 a year of out-of-pocket expenses just to support the bank accounts at Atlantic Union. In addition, their investment returns are about 50 basis points lower than what we're going to be able to work with CIT Bank. Again, because CIT Bank doesn't have the infrastructure requirements, and they're more of a technology-based organization. CIT has been around for a long time. They're listed on the New York Stock Exchange. They're one of the 20 largest financial institutions in the country now through acquisitions, and they're continuing to grow their bank and add new acquisitions. And their focus, the group that we're dealing with is within that bank, which is focused on community associations. And their goal is to, provide products and services and support based on community association needs. So we've looked at them. We spent some time with the group. We've talked to the representative at the investment committee meeting on a couple of occasions. We've also discussed it with the finance committee, and what we're proposing is to make a change for our primary banking relationship from Atlantic Union and move it over to CIT Bank. We will maintain accounts at Atlantic Union, so we can continue to use the branch across the street and their service and support as well. That won't change. Expectation for members that it'll be seamless. They really won't notice. It's just a change in banking relationship. Any kind of payments that are made through automated systems will automatically change in the back end. Should be no impact on that. Check stock will, just the bank routing numbers will change. Everything else should look just the same. So the membership, it should not be a direct impact, but we do expect to have a cost savings from doing that, and also improve our rates of return by using the CIT Bank operations. One of the other things is risk. We're trying to spread out our funds and manage risk, the risk profile as much as possible. So again, we'll keep Atlantic Union to help us a little bit in that regard so we don't have all our eggs in one basket. But we've also, CIT has some risk management and insurance products that allow you to insure your funds that they pay for. There's no cost extra for that, but they allow you to ladder your CDs and be able to take advantage of the higher returns and still protect your money from any kind of, in case there's a default along the way and there's an issue with any of the institutions that we invest in. So we have looked at that. So any questions?
Seeing none? Terry, did you have a question? No?
Okay.
We'll move on to the vote. Thank you, Charlie.
Okay, thank you.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed say no. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, let's move on to item 6.4. Cliff.
I move the board approve entry of the lots in cases number 21-0609-01, 03, and 05 on or after June 9th to perform maintenance as stipulated in the ECC chair's letters to the individual lot owner, and that the property be billed for the cost related to such work in accordance with paragraph 14 of the restrictive covenant.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? No discussion. Phil?
Madam President and Directors, I just want to point out that when we sent you the packet a week ago, we had 7 violations, and at the time of the board meeting, we had 3. So unfortunately, if we can't get there through a friendly letter saying, can we bring this to your attention, if we have to take additional steps, including now we're going to send your case to the board for action, a lot of times it gets people's attention. Unfortunately, we still have 3 that we have to handle.
That's good that it got their attention. Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say no. Motion passes unanimously. Cliff, item 6.5.
I know, I got one more. Okay. I move the board suspend Regulation 1K General and amend Regulation 16 Environmental Control Procedures in subsection 16D4 small d to clarify language regarding the height of ground level structures. This change was intended to be included when the board approved the amendment in March or on March 6 of 2021.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded to suspend Regulation I.K, 1.K. Any discussion?
Just a few words about it. Regulation 1K is the rules change procedures that requires a 5-step process to change a rule. We've already engaged in that process. This got left out of our vote on March 6th, but it's been noticed. The Rules Committee and the ECC recommended this. So what it basically does is remove 3 words out of section 16.
Thank you, Cliff.
You're welcome.
Are we ready to vote? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say no. Motion passes unanimously. Okay, Carl.
I move the board award a construction contract to Chemung Contracting Corporation of Mitchells, Virginia, in the amount of $431,084 for the base bid of $400,384 and bid alternates for a walking surface along Lakeview Parkway in the amount of $30,700 from the repair and replacement reserve and new asset and improvement reserve projects in the capital spending plan. I move the board authorize an owner's contingency of $15,000 for this project from the repair and replacement reserve. I move the board authorize up to $81,000 in available project funds for additional paving projects to resolve accessibility issues, as outlined in the General Manager's memorandum of June 4th.
Second.
Okay. Linda, I have a question for you. Can we vote on all three motions at the same time, or do we have to take them separately? I thought so. Wait.
What Linda said is you could vote on them together. I guess we had anticipated that you would take each one of them separately after you get a staff report on everything, but I suppose you could if you're in
I'd rather
agreement.
we take them all together. Is this this diagram, does it show where the
slides you just had up.
Yeah, all right. Does it show where the work is going to be done on Lakeview?
Yes, we can get to that.
Okay.
We're going to point to the area, but that's like a detail down the line. Would you like to get the overall look at the contract?
You can give us the
or-
overall, but there's one of our directors who really wants to see that map before he votes. So you can do it in any
You're
order
the president.
you like.
You tell us what we're doing.
Okay, I want everybody, if you want to know where the Lakeview is going to be constructed with
The
Shamong.
walking areas is what you're referring to along.
Yes.
It's a bid alternate.
But does it,
Just,
you mean which
It's a
side?
bid
just go
alternate
and
to the
look.
contract.
Go and look at that map. Carl, you
No,
is particularly.
what we'd like to do is from the,
Go ahead.
we'd like Hunter Spencer, our capital projects manager, to point out where they're going to be.
Yes.
Kudos to Hunter for taking what the board had asked for and put it into a bid alternate
So
format.
fast.
And it's affordable. What I would tell you is the recommendation in front of you is the base bid to take care of the basic work, but also to do what the board had asked in terms of additional walking areas. I
Right.
don't want to really call them trails because it's just a little bit wider along the road.
Exactly. They're just extensions.
so,
Okay,
Hunter's got-
before we begin, can the board members who want to see where those changes are, can you go up and look at them?
Do you
No,
have a
but
laser?
it's, he can point
He's got
to
a
it,
laser
but
printer.
it's too far away.
Very good.
So, Carl, do you need to go up there and look at it closely?
Okay, so you're inviting individual board members to walk up and look a little closer?
Yes.
Okay.
All right, well, the areas where we've asked for pricing for the walking surface begins at the first section of Lakeview that we're doing in this. I'm sorry. The first section of Lakeview that we're doing starts at the gate and
Okay.
goes in just past the first entrance to the lower parking lot.
Okay.
So we are starting the walkway, we're going to start enlarging it from the gate,
Okay.
which would be right about here,
Uh-huh.
and we will take it up to the first entrance of that parking lot, okay? I'm sorry, clubhouse parking lot. In the past, there was a short section of walking area that was put in between Riverdale and Wakefield. In the last several years, we've had a number of paving jobs up there, and the next section was not widened. But I've included in here that we would widen that section.
Okay.
So we will start, we'll start at, wait a minute. Here we go. Start at Wakefield, and then we will continue all the way to Constitution.
Wow.
Which, that's the end of our paving in Lakeview for this year.
That's extraordinary.
So we'll have walking surfaces to get all the way to Constitution.
That is great. All right.
And that's right, and all these tie in with some of the areas that we already have, which you can walk continuously all the way to Spotswood, right?
That's great news. All
And-
right.
And also, there's one additional paving.
There is a section.
Can you repeat the question?
there's a section in there that was one of the items that was on Miller Dotson about a walking path between Fairways and
Birchside.
Birchside. And that is included in this bid.
And that's a NAIR project.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. Thank you. Carl, are you satisfied? Okay.
He's patting.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Patting.
Phil, you
I
are
mean-
now in charge.
Okay, thank you, Hunter, appreciate that. Hunter's put a lot of work in this. When we hired him, we said, please get our asphalt paving services contract ready and put together what we had from last year with this year in terms of Lakeview Parkway. So I think he gave you a good overview. We're paving a section near the front gate. This is the kind of job that lasts for a decade or more. How many years would you say this paving work's going to?
The paving we're doing on Lakeview is a 20-year design.
It's a 20-year. So we
That's
expect this
great
to last
news.
20 years. So we'll get that little section basically at the intersection of Lakeview Parkway and take it down to Clubhouse. And as Hunter said, we'll get that walking area on the side. That's something I've seen that we need over the years, because you get an event like 4th of July where you have a lot of people walking around. They're walking on the shoulder of the road right there. And also I've noticed some drivers don't necessarily stay in the stripe, and you can see where they've rutted up the road on the right side. So I think that'll be a good improvement. Thank you so much for figuring out how to do that. And then, as he said, the stretch that goes all the way to Constitution, where does it start? It starts on
Wakefield.
Liberty,
Wakefield.
Wakefield to Constitution. And that's going to be it's going to cut back and forth from different sides of the road, or is it going to stay on?
At this point, we foresee one area not far from Constitution where we will have a crosswalk installed across the road, and the path will go on the other side of the road due to some additional cost we would incur where the ditches are very close to the road and they're very deep.
Right. So,
Yes, that's right.
but as I said, this accomplishes not only those sections of Lakeview, but we also get the mail stations at the Wood Center, and what's the other one? What's the other? Oh, there it is.
I keep turning this off. It's
That's right.
Harper's
And
Ferry.
Harper's
Yeah.
Ferry and
Spotswood and Fairways.
And Fairways.
That's great. That's
So,
great.
again, we bundled up a bunch of work, and there's some other smaller pieces. At the Spotswood, there's a walking path that a member asked, could we pave it? I guess it's a stone dust type trail or a gravel type trail. Could we pave it? So we're able to get to that as well, so we'd have more walking surfaces at that park as well. So it's, in a sense, a betterment of the trail along there. Is there anything else you'd want to say about the projects we're going to do before we get to possible other projects?
We identified culverts at both the Fairways mail station and the Spotswood that needed to be replaced. The price before you includes replacing those culverts with concrete reinforced piping.
Good.
And it'll take care of those. We also found an area that on Spotswood where the rain runoff runs down the asphalt and across the concrete floor where the mailboxes are. And in freezing temperatures, that causes an issue. So we have included in here a price of installing a trench drain down two sides to catch that water and run it to a ditch rather than across that concrete surface.
Thank you, Hunter.
So just going back to our project solicitation, we solicited several companies and advertised for the work. We got 3 firms that attended our mandatory pre-bid meetings, and we got 3 bids. And you'll see the bids as they're laid out there. We got one from Chemung Contracting, from Gator Paving, and Virginia Paving Company. And Chemung Contracting Corporation provides LOWA with the best value when you look at all aspects, the combination of price, experience, and project approach and qualifications. So while they're not the low bidder, you as a board are not required to award to the low bidder, you're required to look at the business decision and decide, is this the best interest of the association? So we're saying that all things considered, especially when looking at their experience, we think that Chemung is a better value, is the best value among them. Also the schedule, it's important that we want to try to start in late June and get completed by September 30. So there'll be some delays, but we'll make sure members know about it. We'll get the word out about those and to get the work done. Hunter, will they be working at night on Lakeview, or will it be during paving during the day?
We haven't spoken about that. There may, as he gets, once we get him a contract and we have discussions about schedule, there could very well be.
Okay, so they may do it on the shoulders of the day to try to miss the big traffic waves. All right, for that project, we think we only need to identify another $15,000 for contingency, and that was the second motion that we had. And that would come from all this work, by the way, is coming from the repair and replacement reserve, except for the walking path on Lakeview Parkway from Birchside Circle to Fairway Drive. That's a $20,000 tranche of money from the new asset and improvement reserve into this. So I think you'd asked me a couple of meetings ago, when are we going to get that project done? Well, that project will get done between June and September, along with all these others. So the last piece, and you heard Jack Simons, the M&E chair, say it, when you've got prices as good as this, what other problems can you solve? Because your alternative is to put the money back in the fund balance and wait and let time happen till you get to those other projects. So we have very favorable numbers here, and even with the base bid and bid alternate and contingency, we still have a budget surplus of $81,000. And so my question to the board is on the last, if you look at the potential additional paving projects list that I included, would the board be interested in having Chemung price out projects as follows? We really do think we need something at the RV boat storage lot to pave into the lot 20 feet. We recently had a large RV get hung up at the gate. He was hesitant to pull out onto the road, and so we think we need to get that surface taken care of. And then there are lots of handicap parking spaces around the community that are on chip and tar lots, and we think these would be opportunities to improve the surfaces the way we just did at Ramsey Beach. If you look over there, we installed a handicap parking spot, and it's on the hot asphalt pavement versus chip and tar. So some of the choices there would be Sweetbriar Park Pavilion. If you can think about what that pavilion looks like, it's a gravel approach up to the pavilion. A lot of times the gravel gets into the pavilion, and then it goes to the chip and tar lot. So at the very least, we'd want to pave the pavilion area and create a couple of parking spots right there for accessible parking. The same thing at the community center main entrance, the handicap spaces there, so it wouldn't be somebody getting out of a wheelchair or somebody that had mobility issues not being able to raise their feet as well, would be on a smooth asphalt surface versus chip and tar. The same for the Sweetbriar Pool area, and also Hollyfield Park. I had a lady call me the other day and say that she went to the pavilion there for a party, and that she found it difficult to, in her wheelchair, to get over the chip and tar over to the sidewalk to get to the pavilion. And so this is one of the thoughts behind this. I said, well, where else do you go? And she said, I don't really go anywhere. I can't really go anywhere. And the reason why she went there is because of his birthday party. So you might think about, would this be an opportunity that would get more members better accessibility to the areas we have. Also, we wanted to have you think about the Wood Center creating handicap spaces near to the building. We would have to take a small green area sort of next to the kitchen back door, but we could have a small area there that would be handicap spaces that would be much closer to the front and back door there. Beyond that, we thought about the entire parking lot at Hollyfield Park. We thought about the Green Springs Park lots. There are 2 lots there. Also, we thought about the entire Wood Center parking lot and the entire Sweetbriar parking lot. So, if possible, we'd like to gauge where you think this stands in terms of priorities, and then Hunter's going to work with Chemung, if that's who we give the contract to, and we'll get some prices, and we'll stay within that 81. So we'll try to see how far 81 can go to help solve these problems.
Okay, Phil, I think that it's too late in the meeting for us to prioritize these right now. If we could vote on the funds and then prioritize them at another time, would that be all right with you?
Do you think we could do that on the 30th if we award the contract
Yes.
today?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
so we can award the
so
contract
if-
today, but prioritize this additional
Yeah, if-
81,000 later.
Right, and so if individual directors want to contact me about what they think is important, or we could, and I could try to put together what I think the list ought to be. And we'll also see the prices by then, right? By June 30, we'll have a better sense of what things cost.
Absolutely. In fact, if we vote to engage them today, then Friday morning, we'll be walking all these projects.
That's
For
great.
example, we may only get to, I mean, for example, if you took the Wood Center, that may take the entire budget. I don't know
I
that for
know.
sure. Maybe Hunter's got a good sense, but maybe that solves a lot of problems. Doing the whole Sweetbriar parking lot, would that solve a lot of problems? It would certainly solve the accessibility problems I mentioned.
It would be
So,
great if we
we'll
could
get some
have.
prices done
Thank you.
for you.
Appreciate it.
Okay, so if you could go back to those motions and let us know what you'd like to do.
Okay, does anybody object to voting on all 3 motions at once? Okay. Anybody have any discussion?
You got a motion and second?
Yes,
You got it?
Yeah.
we did, for all
All right.
3. Any more questions for Hunter or Phil?
So what I'm looking at right here is $400,384 for the initial contract, and then for the walking paths, another $30,700. Is that correct?
Yes,
The
and 15,000 for contingency.
43184 covers,
That covers the base bid
403.
and the walking paths along Lakeview.
right,
Those
get
are
you the
bid
walking paths, get you the bid alternate.
Okay, the only reason I really wanted to see where it was on the map is I feel like it's my fiduciary responsibility to identify where we're gonna spend that much money, because I didn't have a clue. I just knew we were gonna get some paving somewhere.
Yes, and Hunter, thank you for getting that for
So I
us
wanna
in
thank
time
you
for the
pointing
meeting.
that out.
Appreciate
That's
it.
very good, and very good, Phil, saving us all the money and having some left over so we can get some extra things done.
It goes to show when you can put together a giant project like this, you can get really good prices. And I have to tell you, maintenance department, they looked over the list and looked at potential projects and put together a pretty good list. And we were able to get a good price. So as we said, maybe we can solve some other problems with asphalt as well.
One last question. Have we used Chemung before?
Yes,
Yes, the last 2 years.
Yes.
yes. And they're the company VDOT uses.
Okay.
So I think we're getting a good deal. Okay, are we ready to vote? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say no. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you so much. We'll contact the company and finalize the contract.
Okay. Carl, you have the next motion.
I move the board authorize funds from the 2020-2021 New Construction and Renovation Reserve, NCR, fund balance to cover the shortfall of $29,196.90 and owner's contingency of $7,500 for a total project budget of $102,697.
Is there a second?
It's not finished.
I still got some more.
Oh, I am so sorry. Yes, go ahead, Carl. My
It's on
apologies.
the back page.
Okay.
I move the board award a construction contract to R.E. Horner Construction LLC of Rhodesville, Virginia, for $64,575, and with funds to come from the new asset and replacement reserve and new construction and renovation reserve, scope to include base bid and alternate number 2. I move the board adopt resolution 2021-13, a general resolution regarding disbursement of new construction and renovation funds.
Okay, before Hunter gives us a description, do any of the board members want to go up there and have a look at the plan? I've seen it, so I know what it looks like. And Hunter, while he's up there, can you describe this for the rest of us?
Sure.
Was there a second to the motion?
All right, this
Yeah, there was.
this is a partial plan. What you see here is, this is the existing kitchen, right here, the wash area
Okay.
behind it. This is where we bring supplies into the building from the north side. This is the covered area where the service window is. What we're doing is, right now, this area, it has 5 outside units. The sad thing about it is they're right where we need to put the cooler. The idea in the cooler here was to put it in such a position so that it could come directly into the kitchen, and a second door with keeping in mind some of the ad hoc committee talk about an eventual extension of the kitchen over here. So the cooler would be able to stay in the same place and simply work, you know, at either space. The drawing, even though it looks pretty simple, it requires a lot of moving around of existing mechanical units. I have 3 that are being removed and repositioned. That includes their electrical work, which all comes down in this wall, and the piping from the air handlers coming down there. Those will all have to be removed and rerouted to put into place. The existing fence that's here now will be torn down. Once we get these units moved, we'll pour a concrete slab to put the cooler on it. Inside, we've got there's some electrical work that's in there that has to be removed or relocated. We're providing an opening in the wall, and we'll be dressing out this new yard area for the equipment and the cooler freezer. We're building back an 8-foot high fence, which will hide the freezer cooler unit. So it's a fair amount higher than the fence that's there now. But from the materials we want to use, we want it to look like the existing building. So we're going to be using siding and trim to match the colors of what's on the building to help make it a little bit less noticeable.
Microphone. Carl?
How far does the wood fencing come down?
Can you, get me down to this section? Yeah, right there. The existing, oops, wrong button. The existing fence now runs to about to here. We're enlarging it down to here, so we're adding, extending the yard about 8. I think it's 8'4".
Okay. Directors, do any of you have questions for Hunter or Phil? All right. Upon the motion itself, do you have any questions about funding, for example, Walt? I know you're concerned.
It's less of a question than to make sure that the membership understands the funding. Because I think that the motion, the exact wording, talks about taking money from the new construction revenue reserve, renovation reserve, to get the extra money we need to do this, because this project was passed at a $66,000 level, and we need another $36,697 to get the amount of money we need to do it. Now, so the question always becomes, if it's going to come from the NCNR fund, how much money is in the fund? And it turns out, you know, the old Frank Sinatra song, it was a very good year. Well, it was a very good year. And that we have just under $345,000 in the new construction revenue reserve for last year, money that came in last year, that we can use to to provide the funds for this. So it's not like we don't know where the money's coming from and whether we can, whether it will reduce that to a point where we're in trouble. We're still going to have well over $300,000 in the new construction and renovation fee fund that is not allocated to another project. So that answers the question of, where's the money going to come from, and is the money there to do it? I've expressed my concern in the past that this project went from a $36,000 project to a $66,000 project to a $102,000 project. The answer is that back in earlier this year when we approved this project, we also decided that given what was going on in the market, it made sense to buy the cooler before prices went up even more. And so we're faced with a situation where we've already spent $20,000 on this project. So we're a victim of everybody else who's doing construction right now, and that they joke about how the price, if you have a load of 2x4s in your pickup truck, the load is probably worth more than the pickup truck at this point. And plus, the comment's been made that if you want somebody to build a building for you, there are lots of folks who want to do that. If you want to have a partial renovation of your basement, nobody wants to do it anymore because it's too busy. So I think that, I would put myself in the camp of people who is very unhappy with how much this has cost. I kind of get how we wound up here, even though it hasn't been a pleasant journey. And I think it's time to move on and recognize that we're at a point where we really need to do this, and we don't like the price, but it's not going to get any cheaper.
And I would like to say that there was a lot of shock value when I saw it went up to $102,000. I'm thinking, what? And then I decided we've been talking about this for 2 years. We need to get this thing done before it gets more expensive. So that's my comment. Terry, did you want to say anything? Terry?
I know.
I think Terry had a question about the contract.
No, I like to make my numbers balance, so I'm still trying to figure out how they balance here. But I think I see where the numbers are coming from. I think I've already expressed at other times that it's bothersome to see something go from an original plan of $36,000 to $54,000 to then $63,810 on the 6th of January when you presented this to us, Tom, to now $102,697. And it's just like, how do we explain to our members that we're spending so much more than we thought we would spend? Mm-hmm. That being said, I recognize that we already bought the walk-in cooler. That being said, I also recognize that I am not a frequent user of fairways since I don't play golf and I live on the other side of the lake. So I've never really experienced the issues that people talk about, and I believe that they are real issues. So I'm not at all happy, but I think at this stage we're kind of like the house is half built. We have to finish building it.
And hurry up before the prices go up again.
Yeah, they'll go back down.
All right, let's vote. You had a question?
I see on here you've got a calendar days to complete 21. I don't see, maybe it's on here, but when does it start?
It starts he's planning on starting on or before July 15th.
So mid-September, we should have it.
Yeah, it should be in August, you should be able to get it,
That'll be great.
in theory.
Madam
In theory.
President?
Phil, go ahead.
Did we get your question answered? Also, a question that was asked earlier of me as what will, this would go to R.E. Horner. We had two bidders on this project that pre-qualified, and R.E. Horner had the better bid. What will they actually be doing for the $64,575 was the question I got asked.
They are basically moving everything around that needs to move, providing the new bid base in the yard, new concrete, moving utilities. There's a gas line that's got to be moved, that they will be building the fence. He acts as the general contractor, and he has sought sub-prices for all these items.
Right. And it's basically a bunch of little projects, and that's why that we're
Exactly.
paying a premium for this. It's a bunch of little
Exactly.
projects. The other thing I wanted to mention was when we found out that there was going to be an overage, we looked at all the reserve funds to decide which one would be the best one, and decided that NCR was the best. If we charge the repair and replacement reserve, this is really an expansion of something we have, and so we are using some R&R money because we're actually replacing the smaller units with this bigger unit. And so we've already put in our R&R money. So while you could probably put in a little bit more, it's really more of an expansion project. We looked at NAIR. NAIR is for new assets, but we don't really have the fund balance to take on something like this without sacrificing another project like the security radios. I mean, I don't think we're willing to get rid of those to get this. So NAIR wasn't a good choice. The third would be contingency. Well, contingency is really there for emergencies, and we hope we make it through the spring and we're not going to have any terrible storms that will cause us to have to spend that $100,000. And if we spend the contingency, then we've got to put money back into it to get it back to that $100,000 mark. So that means either out of NCR in the future anyway, or on the assessment. So we didn't think that was a good choice. And that's why we got down to NCR, new construction and renovation. Money is there. You can spend, according to the reserve policy, you can spend it any time during the year. But we normally look at it after we finish the audit. That's when we know that's probably the best time to decide where to put those monies. And but the policy does allow you to spend it any time. It does require that you do it by resolution. So that's why you have a specific resolution for that.
Thank you, Phil.
There are some building permit requirements for some of these projects. This is a very difficult little piecemeal type job, so it's going to be a coordination of subcontractors. I'm sure it's going to be difficult.
Absolutely, and it's and any contractor we hire is responsible for all the permits necessary.
Okay. Are we ready to vote?
Yeah, just one more question, and I think, Phil, you already addressed this, but one of my other concerns was just making sure all those other capital projects that we said we wanted to get done, like the security gate, Patrick Henry, the pool shades, all of that, there's still NAIR
Right.
money for that.
They would not be
so
affected by this
those won't be
project.
affected.
We're not robbing Peter to pay Paul.
Okay. Let's call the vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. All right, we are now at the point for director comments. And I would like to begin, and I promise to address your concerns about the porta potty at your beach. You'll notice all of our agendas are tentative, so sometimes, okay. All of our agendas are tentative, so we can add a motion during the agenda. In fact, we sometimes table items that we don't know until we're in the board meeting that we're going to table. So I can't say that the board failed in some way, because we do have that authority to change the agenda. Unfortunately, for your argument, all the beaches are the common areas, and it's not just for the neighbors, it's for everyone. Everyone can use it. The only restriction is if there's no parking, you're not to park on the street. So that's the main restriction. So the board did vote to provide porta potties for every beach, and that was a big thing back then. We thought we were doing a good thing, and suddenly it's a terrible thing, at least for your beach. So our biggest concern, I think, is that we need to avoid the smell. And I think that's something that maintenance is very aware of. Am I right, Bobby? So that is the main, we really have to make sure we maintain that. Now, Phil, did you hear from Chief? Or is there a lot of crime going on in the porta potties?
I don't think he's going to be able to get back with me this afternoon on that.
All
but
right. Can we send an email to Ms. Pappas and let her know if there's a lot of crime going on in the porta potties? Wait till after the board meeting. This is a director's comment. Okay.
I've tasked the security chief with looking at that.
So we'll get back to you. Okay. Now, I have another comment. When we were talking, one of the chair of the fitness committee wanted to have an extensive sign on etiquette, I would like to point out that that's one reason that we voted to have attendance at the fitness center, because even if you make a whole wall of a sign, you're going to have people who violate the rules and don't maintain etiquette. So to me, that's an argument for having an attendant at the fitness center. And those are my comments. Any other director comments?
I have a question for Bobby. These portable, these toilets that we're talking about, has anybody ever looked into incinerator toilets? Do you know what that is?
Go ahead and identify yourself too, please.
The only thing it will do is just keep the smell down, and you won't have the pumping truck there.
Hey, all right, Madam Director, directors, and members, my name is Bobby Jones. I'm your Director of Facilities. Carl, to answer your question, we have looked into those as well. The pricing on those is much higher than our budget amounts that we have for the rental of our porta potty facilities and for the building of the wooden structures. As far as addressing the scent goes, in the 7 years that I've been here, we've had them at Ramsey Beach, Cumberland, Cornwallis, Harper's Ferry. We've never gotten a single complaint as far as smell goes at any of those beaches, not one. The companies that we use typically clean them out at least once a week. As we're going around in our daily activities, if we notice that one looks like it's not going to make it the week and should get tidied up quicker, we call them and they come right out. So if there's ever any issue of that, we're on it very quickly to get it cleaned up for them.
Thank you, Bobby.
Bobby, to be clear, you're saying our custodial staff checks them?
Yes, our custodial staff checks them as they go around. Our grounds crew, as they're doing their beach work each morning. All of our crews, as they go around, always keep an eye out for those types of things.
All right. Any other questions? Comments. Yeah. Board comments. Sorry. Walt?
Cliff, do you have anything? No, you're okay. I'm worn out. The paving contract, first of all, I want to thank Carl for coming up with the idea of trying to consolidate things, see if we can get a better price, because we sure did. The ability to put the walking trails in, from the extent that we've been able to do it all the way down to Constitution from Wakefield is going to be fabulous, and which is perfect because we just got a resolution from the fitness committee asking us to try to do a walking trail completely around Lakeview Parkway.
And we can't call it a walking trail? It's
whatever
more
you
of
want
an
to call it,
extension.
wider pavement.
Enhanced shoulder.
Yeah,
Enhanced shoulders, whatever
Thank you.
buzzword you want to use. It is going to accomplish a significant part of that this year, and I don't think that even a month ago anybody would have thought that was a possibility.
So true.
So I think that is just fabulous that we've been able to make that much progress.
Thank you, Walt. Anybody else have a comment?
I think that the walking trails is very important to this community because it's just a safety factor.
Oh, you're talking about the extended,
Extending the shoulders and making a
Okay.
walking path. And I want to thank Hunter, he's gone. And also Phil for looking
Yes,
into
thank
this
you.
and making it happen.
yeah,
Thank you, Carl. I'll pass that on to Hunter.
okay. Anybody else have a comment? Pete? Terry?
Maybe Terry would comment more, but the referendum, she gave a count earlier. We still need total votes,
Tell them what
more.
we're doing on Friday.
And so, tell,
No, I was just going to say, so I know we've been doing a lot of
on-site.
on-site efforts. We've done them at the front gate, we've done them at the compactor, we've done them at the small marina.
And Spotswood.
And Spotswood. And now this Friday, if you decide to go to the clubhouse to listen to music and have a nice dining experience, Walt and I will be there to help you vote if you haven't voted already.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And the following weekend on a Saturday, Pete and I will be at the beach with the ballot box. Okay. All right. Okay, no more director comments. Scheduled meetings. Special meeting of the membership Thursday, June 24, 2021, Community Center at 5 p.m. Regular Board of Directors meeting Wednesday, June 30, 2021, Community Center, 1 p.m. executive session, 2 p.m. open session. Regular Board of Directors meeting Wednesday, July 21, 2021, Community Center, 1 p.m. executive session, 2 p.m. open session. Carl?
Second.
Moved and seconded to adjourn the meeting. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Okay, folks, I will be right back. I just to go over here. Very